I would just like to add, it was brought to my attention this afternoon by multiple parents, why the difference between the number of spectators at the middle school activities and the high school activities are different when it's a district.
So are you wanting to add it to the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, where?
Just in a discussion item.
Participants?
Yes.
So H participants at sports?
Yes. Or at activities in general.
Do you amend your motion?
No, because that current letter that was sent out was clearly laid out, so I don't. No, I
Yeah,
don't.
see. Okay. So any more discussion?
I guess
Just
I
the
don't know.
letter that was sent out by Dave Robinson was clearly stated.
but the one from the middle school is fewer people.
It's a smaller scale, so.
We're talking about the football field, I think.
Oh.
All these parents were asking.
Then I'll amend it just for a brief discussion.
Okay.
Cody, do you?
I second.
Okay, any more discussion? Call for the question?
I got on late, so I need to know who made the motion and who did the second,
Tammy
please.
Wilson, and seconded by Cody.
I couldn't get on, and is Jack participating tonight?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm calling for the question on set the agenda.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
is Tammy Hooten,
Aye.
Stacy Hall,
I,
Sherry Noyes.
She is.
I'm sorry, is Sherry attending this one?
No, she attended
Okay.
the work session, but she's not this one.
Okay, thank you. Cody Wells,
Aye.
Sherry Wright,
Aye.
Jack Schoenenmeyer,
aye.
and Chris Flaherty.
I'll abstain.
Okay.
No.
Motion passed. Approval of the minutes for February 16th, regular meetings.
I make
I
a
moved them.
motion.
Okay, Stacy, do you second it?
I second, yes.
Okay, motion made by Chris, seconded by Stacy. Any discussion?
I think that motion was by Jack.
Oh, was it by Jack? Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, any more discussion? Call for the question?
Tammy Hooten,
Aye.
Stacy Hall,
I,
Cody Wells,
Aye.
Sherry Wright,
Aye.
Jack Schoenenmeyer,
Aye.
and Chris Flaherty.
Aye.
Okay, celebration reports.
I have several, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I'd like to celebrate and welcome Cody.
Thank you.
And visiting with Cody, I have no doubt he'll be a very strong board member. So thank you for being here.
that.
And then in relation to celebration, I think being in person tonight is a major celebration. I feel like we came out of a pandemic hibernation
Yes.
and look forward to interacting on a personal basis. And so thank you for being here tonight. We have had zero COVID cases since the last board meeting in the schools.
That's fantastic.
And then this Saturday is when we have the last shot for our staff to be immunized. And I know that staff is going to feel a large sense of relief, as I think all of us will with this. So I just really would like to highlight the health department and all of their support and leadership through this.
They have been great.
And then also later on in the board meeting, we'll be having a discussion, but one of the items on the discussion portion of the board meeting is to give the board an update on the homegrown initiative work. And I even hate to say initiative anymore. You know, this last year has been a lot of centered around management of having people safe and students safe. But what has continued to do was the great work around this whole initiative, which will actually redefine our education and what it looks like for our students when they graduate from Montezuma-Cortez High School. So Eric Chandler will be here, as well as our two coordinators that will be leading the work through the RISE grant and the CEI grant. But this is an email that Eric Chandler had received, and I asked if I could just read a portion of it. It's from a community member that is actually going to be working in the context of the homegrown initiative by providing some internships. And this is part of the email. It says, "It is heartening to know that the district is investing in building connections to the community and expanding opportunities for youth to explore careers and jobs in our community. Sadly, our youth seems to be the county's biggest export as they leave home to find education and jobs. This new effort on your part deserves a standing ovation."
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I was reading in the announcements that the Fed sends out, and I was reading where there's 2 new internships. I was telling Kyra about it because one of them is a horse therapy. That's her major. And she's going, why didn't they do that when I was?
And there was a very complimentary article in the journal. I hope that you read it. If not, I'd be happy to forward it to you.
Would you forward it to me? I don't take it.
In relation to the work, absolutely.
You have any more?
That's all for right now.
Well, I shared earlier, but Sherry's not here, but her son just received a full ride scholarship for his doctorate's degree at Cornell University. I think that's phenomenal. He is a graduate of the MCHS, and he got his bachelor's at Fort Lewis, and now he's on his way to his doctorates. I'm very proud of our students. And that being said, I want to tell each and every
Wonderful.
one of our teachers, thank you. Because we are leaps and bounds ahead of almost any school in the nation. And it's because our teachers have stepped up to the plate and have been working so hard. And I'll cry. I just appreciate it so much because you put our kids first. And I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Okay, superintendent's report.
Oh, and I think we should highlight also the discretionary days.
Oh, right.
That this is on as a discussion item because this policy will go into effect next fall. And so the policy adoption will either be in May or June.
But it's going to be
And
adopted.
it's, this is something that staff has been asking for many, many years. And so, you know, having 4 discretionary days in their contract will be greatly beneficial and will, you know, eliminate the, do I call in sick because I have to do this? And then you have people that do need the time, but they won't because it is sick leave. And I just feel like it's a nice way to honor staff. So I really want to thank the board for committing to this change.
Okay. Lori, your report?
My report's included in the board packet board, and there is just a lot of work going on in the district right now. We're trying to project our enrollment trends for next year, and so we've been working on some information there. We had a meeting this afternoon on it. So we will have, to the best of our ability, being able to project what the enrollment will look like. Now, we will, and we are also exploring what our online program will be looking like. That will be a continuation of our district and not a standalone program. So we should have more information for the board at the next board meeting on that. But it's really our difficulty at this time is our goal is to get back every single online student that basically was on CDLS or another private online program, and whether that's in person or online, and just be able to have them. The difficult part is what is our in-person student attendance going to look like, because that has significant staffing decisions to be made. So we're working with the administrators and projecting the best that we can, and really looking and trying to move forward with the staffing. As you know, Kyle talked, we have a very strong plan to use the state's calculation per pupil for our budget. But really, this other consideration really does go into staffing needs. So we
Yes, it
should
does.
have more information for you on that at the next board member meeting. The state assessment, our plan still, as the things have changed, and I forward some information to the board as we've received it. Our plan is still strong, is that we will test at the very end of the testing cycle, which is May, so it won't interrupt our instructional block, which has been really nice to have this spring, and move forward with that. At this time, it's either the students will be taking ELA or they will be taking math, and that was included in my board report also. And thank you, board, for no school next Monday to give staff to recuperate from the second shot. I really appreciate the board's consideration on that. Later on in the board meeting, we'll be having a in-depth conversation on the school calendar and eliciting support board feedback for the calendar adoption at the next board meeting. I know that's a little bit late, but in discussing with Eric Chandler, we're able to accommodate that, just because I recognize this is going to be a very difficult decision for the board, and want to make sure and be able to provide everything that is needed in moving forward.
Right.
And the rest of the information's in my board packet, so I'd like to elicit any comments or questions in relation to.
I have a question, Marty, in regards to the second vaccine shot, I guess you can say. I know that we're anticipating usually the second shot, there's a little bit more side effects. And I know we're letting no in-person school happening, with instructional being sent home on Friday for students to do at home.
Correct.
Have we prepared for maybe a larger fallout of more of a side effect with possibly some of our older, I don't want to be discriminatory towards the older age teachers, but do we have enough subs in the event that we have more out than anticipate?
That is our hope with, and quite frankly, we wouldn't have had enough subs to cover our classrooms even safely as a district on Monday. So I feel an incredible relief with that. And we are hoping that we can cover those classes like what we have been with the COVID quarantines for the additional day, which would be Tuesday, in case we do have staff members that need to have an additional day. But this is where it's really nice that the health department had worked with us and has done a mass testing and has done it on the weekend for us.
Oh, good.
So that's been very beneficial. And that's one thing I have to say with, there's been some really good things come out of, how we've traditionally done things. And it has given incredible opportunity, just like with our online program, what can a hybrid look like that we know that we need to move forward with. But it's also the collaboration. I have to say, even though we've been working remotely, I have been more integrated into the community and the county meetings. And the Mountain Ute Tribe has opened their doors because they've received extra vaccines. And so they have, opened that up to the community. And I really feel like with the separate entities, it's really bonded all of us together at a deeper level that we can definitely enhance and work towards from this point forward. So I feel like the structure has been set, and I think great things will go and moving, because as we know, we have to move the community forward to move our district forward. It goes hand in hand.
Thank you, Lauren.
Any more questions for Lauren?
Good evening, board. So my report is in your board packet. And one exciting thing is that we will be having summer school happening at elementary, middle school, and high school levels this year. And that is due to receiving another RISE grant that's in partnership with St. Vrain School District and CEI. So, and some of our title funds at the elementary, middle school, and then high school get funded through SCYC grants that they have going on too. So that's exciting for our kids, so that we can provide that opportunity for them. And included for the elementary, through the RISE grant, is some funding for transportation. So that's a new thing for this year, and meals as well. It will be a full day, and it will go 16 days, 4 weeks. So we're pretty excited about that. And so we have 2 great coordinators who will be leading that. There'll be a site at Kemper and a site at Mesa for the elementary and the middle school. Also in your board packet tonight is a job description for a Native American K-12 district coordinator and liaison. And this has been a need for a while. We get Title VI dollars, but it's not very much. And I feel like there's a lot of work that we still need to do with Native American support in our district, not only our Mountain Ute students, but our Navajos and our other tribes that are in our district. We will be fortunate to be getting some additional SR2 funds. And with that SR2 funds comes some additional Title VI funds. It's pretty complicated to talk about, but it's going to be a big chunk of money. And that's where, if we get that funding as anticipated, that's where we would pay for this position if you approve the position, and the position will be paying for that funding.
So it's all Native American families, not just Blue Mountain.
Right.
And that's the difference, because they have their liaisons too.
They-
So we'll be working with them
Yes,
and taking care of everything.
And
Native American.
yes, and the Title
Yeah, I
VI
like
funds
that.
has to be spent specifically for our Native American students.
I like that.
yeah. And I think it would be really exciting because they could also lead with our PAC committees. They could be doing, really some good planning in our district. So we are pretty excited about that potential. That's in there. And then also there was a request on what we're teaching for health curriculum. So the health standards were 134 pages long. So I really didn't want to put that in your packet. So instead I provided you with the CDE link. And those are the standards that are CDE and that the board approved with the revision for the 2020 standards. So those are our approved health standards for the district. And then health classes are being taught at the middle school and at the high school. As you know, high school, you have to have a half accredited health to graduate. So the syllabuses for those classes are included in your board packet.
And I asked Lori, but I'll ask you, do they send out, like we have this information on the syllabus helping you? Are we supposed to send this out and then parents opt out if they do not want their child taught?
Yeah, if parents would not want their kids to participate,
So
that
we send this out before we teach the class.
that's provided to students at the beginning of the class. Yep.
Okay. I have more questions, but I think that if there are legal questions, I might have to go into that. But our lunch bunch, I have the permission slip in here that they have. Do they have to have that signed before they are allowed in the group?
That is correct.
That is correct, and that's not a class. That's more of a lunchtime thing where students have the option to do that. They're not signed into that, but they do have to, in order to participate, sign the form.
Okay.
Which is standard for our clubs for the
Right.
parent permission.
So I just, my other questions are legal, and I think we came the rest of them for the line, but I wanted to make sure that, because we've had so many people say that we're not, there's no permission slips and parents don't know. So we have settled that, right?
Yeah, and yes, we have. So that for the lunch bunch group, the club that happens at lunchtime, that's not during official school time, the students have to have that signed form. And then separate from that, and I think this is where it gets a little confusing too, is there are health classes that follow our standards.
Yeah,
And
and
then-
that
and then
really
there are
didn't concern me, but I wanted to have all the information out because the community has been asking questions, and I told them I would address them.
Yep. Yeah, and if there's any further questions on that, I'd be glad to answer them, especially in regards to the classes that we offer.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Any other questions for my board packet?
No.
Carol, did you have anything?
Good evening, board. Nice to see everyone. My report was in the board packet. I don't really have anything significant to add at this point, just to highlight that we are in full force process of working with schools to identify potential needs for staffing next year and to recruit new teachers and new staff members for our district, participating in several large hiring fairs, as well as working with our ongoing partners at Fort Lewis, the Betcher program, DU, and other partnerships that we have in the area. So, and the other thing to highlight is a celebration that Superintendent Hawkins already mentioned, which is that we'll be having our second vaccination clinic on Saturday, and just really grateful to the health department and all the community partners for making that happen. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Carol? Carol, thank you. You are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
James.
Good evening, board. I think I'll move right over here, so I'm not talking behind anybody's back.
Except mine, I can
Yeah,
move Jamie, so it doesn't
yeah.
make you feel bad.
Yeah, because she was shooting me with glasses.
There you go. I like that. So board, I did supply you with a report, several items in there to spend a little bit of time, not too much though, hopefully to talk about. The first thing I have are the Manaw furnaces. As you know, last January, it was somewhat dire where one of the main one went out. We had a backup system, and it got us through those 2 weeks. And now our maintenance department has those running well, but they're very old. So we put it out to bid. We had it budgeted, I believe, in the 5-year capital plan for $80,000. And although we had 5 or 6 contractors at the walkthrough, we only had one person bid. And that bid was for over $90,000. So after some discussion, knowing we need to do something, we decided to hold off and see where we are with the HVAC system, if there's going to be a new one put in there. And if so, we could probably rely on these older ones and not have to do that part possibly. So that's one thing I wanted to apprise you of. The other thing is a Kemper gymnasium roof. We had some bad weather a couple weeks ago, and it pulled one of the drains apart and tore the membrane. And so that is in the process of an insurance claim. And it did get under some of the flooring, and there's some buckling. So we will see what that outcome is. I just want to let you know about that. It is the oldest section on the building, so that part's good, I suppose. And it was in line to get replaced, not too far down the road.
It didn't hurt our HVAC, it's a different part of the roof.
It's a different part, yeah. There's no HVAC on the gym at all. And then big item, as you know, is the high school update and the carpet replacement. I provided you a board report with some bullets in there, and I'll go over the parts that I have in my report. And the report we got from Nunn Construction is very comprehensive. And Lori sent that to you, I believe, yesterday. And
I did not get it.
Oh, okay.
I might not go.
I think, do you have a copy of that, everyone?
And I can forward it to you also.
Yeah.
Electronically, yes.
Oh.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
oh, I've got that, yeah.
So anyway, long story short, Nunn Construction has been very good working with us about our concerns. As our insurance rep said, that's a wonderful building, it's a showcase, it's well built, but there have been some things that we haven't been satisfied with. We went back to the contractor. They were very responsive, as well as our insurance rep, to fix several things that definitely needed to be fixed. There were some cracks in the exterior bricks, I think 3 cracks that went from the roof down to the ground, and they came in, they replaced those bricks, they put in expansion joints. Also, there was some stucco that was bubbling on the west and east sides, and they repaired that. There were some sheetrock cracks that they fixed, I think it was 2 years ago, last Christmas. And it was extensive. They were in there the entire break. It's my understanding, and from what I've heard from Eric Chandler and Ray Lopez, is those cracks, and we also did a walkthrough with Nunn. have not cracked again or resurfaced. There's some minor ones that have appeared. One is in a closet. One is in a classroom, but it's nothing out of the norm, as the report says. So we're happy with that. There were some leaks under some seals in the commons area, and that was when we had a horizontal rain, and it looks like that's taken care of. Also, the door going into the lobby, they switched it around so you don't have to reach over and pull it over and walk around it. It's the right-hand door now, like it should be. And pleased with that part. And the geothermal was not an issue. It was more learning how to program that right with our maintenance department. And they also have to treat it every year with chemicals. And again, the main thing right now is the carpet. The carpet that's in that building is excellent carpet, but I believe it was substandard with how they put that down and the glue that they use, because it should not shrink like it has. And so none construction is actually using their insurance companies to replace that. And there is a map on the back of this construction report, and I'd like to take a moment to look at it. You have to study it somewhat. But the main floor is obviously the one with the commons and the main gym. You will see in both wings on the south end, area A and area B, those hallways, all that carpet is going to be replaced. Because where it's spreading just, even an eighth of an inch, a quarter of an inch, it should not do that, and it's only going to get worse. And it's going to be a tripping hazard too. So they've talked to Eric Chandler about finding a classroom or two to put all the carpet in. And as soon as school is out, they're going to start working on that. And there is also a room over by the ag shop, a rather large one there. Which room is this?
The health room.
Health room? Yeah, it's a large classroom. That's going to be replaced. And then if you look on the very back, the second floor, if you look at the library, that's a large room that's being replaced. And I asked Chris Scher with Nunn Construction, if there's a line there, does that mean all that carpet in that room gets replaced? And he said yes. And that's what we're going to hold him to, because you can't go in and just patch that. You just can't.
And then when you walk through the halls, you can definitely see where they spliced it together.
Yeah, and it's a shame because it's good carpet, but the subcontractor will use and recognize the standard, in my opinion. And again, both hallways upstairs, and then also a large classroom on the south side. So with that being said, our 6-year limit on having them come back comes to term on July 6th of this year, and it should be done by then. But we will do another walkthrough with that carpet. If any of you want to come and look at the building, please do so. Tammy, you served on that committee too, and thanks, I appreciate that. So, any questions of the high school before I move on?
Did a phenomenal job.
No, I appreciate it. And it is a wonderful building. It is our showcase. And so we're making sure we're covering the tax dollars that our taxpayers put out for this building to keep it hot notch. So that's a good thing. The other thing I have is a 10-year capital reserve, and for our new board members, a little bit of history. With the maintenance department, we've had what we've always called a 5-year capital plan, which is basically from a given year, say now to 5 years in the future. When Kyle and I were hanging out at the skate park the other day, and boy, we had the place to ourselves quickly, didn't we? Not just teasing, of course, but I was explaining to him, in the past, like 4 or 5 years ago, we did 2 roofs at the middle school. A couple of years ago, we did this, and so we thought, let's just back up, let's conclude the previous 5 years. It's as simple as that. And while it's not easy to print, I do have a copy of it for your review. If you want to pass those over. And these are, if you look, the black ones are ones that have been approved. And the red ones are proposed, meaning that they have not happened yet, but might and likely should. But it's a very good visual on everything that we've done in the past and what we're going to do in the future. And if you look in the middle, 2021, the green there, that's where we are right now. And so, again, the approved projects are in black this year. We've done the roof at the middle school, the annex, the roof at the middle school, the upper art room, the security cameras at the high school parking lot, campus lighting, which is ongoing. That was approved at the last board meeting. Thank you. A freezer at Lewis, the guardrail out at Lewis, that was capital reserve. The flooring at Manah, the maintenance truck we purchased, carpet for the Lewis hallway, the HVAC projects, that was $1,079,000. And asbestos sampling, and let's see, walk-in cooler repair. And we also bought 3 buses. That was $210,000.
Which was a really good
For
price.
free.
For town, it was an
That's
incredible
a
price.
really good price.
And so I just want to let you look at this for a moment. Look at years gone by and years ahead. As you know, we have a plan to start replacing more buses. Our discussion 3 years ago was how dire that situation is. We've also been able to replace a couple of maintenance trucks, and we don't miss those 2-wheel drive trucks that were from 1996. And they really appreciate that. Wayne is looking at getting some fleet vehicles replaced for staff that use those too.
And I believe that with the transportation, the busing plan, we are caught up.
Are we?
Yeah, we're only like one
So,
bus. Yeah, so it's been very aggressive, and Lena's done a really nice job.
Yeah,
And
she
Lena
has.
is our transportation director, Cody,
Okay.
and finding great deals on used buses, but they're basically new.
Yeah.
As you can see.
And so with your approval, we'll keep this at a 10-year plan. I like how it has that visual.
Yeah.
And Kyle's been all over this and he's very interested in it. Thank you, Kyle. You've been a big help with that.
Thank you, James.
And as you know, as we look ahead, we can't always project what's going to happen. For example, we have a capital reserve item tonight for soccer goals at the high school. But I think that's very valid, very needed for our kids. The roof at Kemper, if it won't be covered by the insurance, although I'm almost certain it will be, would be capital reserve as well. And as you look down the road, there's quite a few things in the future that we're going to need to have a talk about. But before I get to that, the radio bridge tests, those are going quite well now.
Good.
And the campus lighting is continuing, and it's really nice to have. The last thing I have on the board report is the need for master facility plan. And the one we have is quite old. It was from back when we were prior to building the new high school. And when we applied for the BEST grant, you know, we had a really good relationship with them and CDE, and I talked to them quite a bit. They sent down some people to evaluate every building in our district. And I have 10 different plans for each building, and one of them has 164 pages, which isn't necessarily good because there are so many things that have run its lifespan, and they're talking about, you know, a few years down the road, you're going to have to address this or address that. This building we're standing in is 71 years old. It's built in 1950. Kemper was 1958. Manah was right in there at the same time. We've done a really good job taking care of these old buildings, and I think we still can. But we also are at that point where I'd recommend that we start looking at getting a good master plan. And the reason for that, I talked to Meg Donaldson at CDE a while back, and also to our owners reps recently. And basically you do have an architect look at these plans, look at the buildings. You get a committee together and make decisions on where the priorities are, how much longer you want to keep these buildings, all those kinds of things. And so with that being said, I think, that would be something that would really be good, and would be wise, because, sometimes the cost of these buildings are going to really hit a high point. But they're good buildings, but how much real life in them there's left in them, I'm not sure.
Just like Manon, the cost.
Yeah.
Phyllis, would you put that on next month's agenda?
I'm sorry, what's the item, please?
Master plan on our facilities.
I'll do it.
Do we want this a discussion or an action?
I would recommend
Discussion.
an action. I can help get it
Action.
started before I leave.
Okay.
These plans or these reports from CDE, they've spent a lot of money on it just doing this, and they will be such a guiding line for future decisions.
So I guess it'll be an action item.
Okay,
There will be some costs associated with it, but at some point, we are gonna have to go back for a bond to renew
Yeah.
our schools, and a campus would be phenomenal for our elementaries.
Yeah.
Makes sense
Yeah,
for
the
safety as
community's
well.
been fantastic with our new high school, and it's here for many, many decades.
Yeah.
The middle school, when they did that remodeling 25 years ago and added those 30 pods and made that old building look good, it was incredible. I know, like at Kemper, if you were to do a massive remodel, the sixth, fourth and fifth grade classrooms were added only about 25 years ago, maybe 30. Those are still pretty nice,
Yeah,
but
nice.
the original part is as old as the hills. And so anyway, we will need to think about that down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jamie, I have one question for you.
Yes, Chris.
On the radio bridge tests that you do each month, is that just kind of like a system-wide check to make sure that each school's able to communicate with each other and with dispatch?
Right. Yes, and just
Is
for our new board
Is that what
members,
that's for?
the Board of Education purchased school-safe radios for every classroom, every teacher in the district. And if there's an emergency and a school calls 911, dispatch throws a switch, and all police officers can directly talk to all those radios. And so, Chris, that's working well now. It sounds like they've come a long ways with their training with some new dispatchers, and we conducted one just the other day, and it was quite good.
And you're comfortable with that month's interval to make sure that that bridge is still there?
I am comfortable at least once a month, but sometimes I'll call Lori Johnson out of the blue and just run one with some of the schools.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Kyle.
I'll come up here to see that. All right. Good evening, board members. I'd like just to start off by saying thank you for the work we did in the work session. It's really going to help guide my work here going forward, so I appreciate your time and diligence. You at home too. In my board report, I included just a couple items. One, the school land dedication fee, which we'll be having a discussion on later. So I won't get into too many details there. The second part is just a reminder of hard dates that we have to hit in order to approve the budget in time. And this is straight from our board policy. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. And then just to kind of add on to what Jamie was talking about, the capital reserve, that facility master plan is key for us to try to find any outside funding besides going into our own pocketbook. Because when we go to the best grant or anywhere else, they're going to want to know the most up-to-date engineering specifics of what conditions the buildings are in, because they don't want to throw money into something that's going to have to be replaced. So just wanted to throw that on there. It's pretty high key item to make sure that our building facilities are maintained. So With that, I stand for questions.
Thank you for the in-depth work session. Thank you. Okay, staff reports.
That's actually going to be on for the discussion.
Okay. Any staff out there that wants to make a report? Okay, next action, next thing is board requests and reports. And that is where I'm going to give Cody his oath of office. So, you want to? Wherever you want to do it. Okay, please repeat after me. I, Cody Wells,
I, Cody Wells,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully perform the duties
that I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of school director
of the office of school director
as required by law,
as required by law,
and will support the Constitution of the United States,
and will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
and the laws made pursuant thereto.
and the laws made pursuant thereto.
Thank you. I think, do I sign this or does Cody? No. Okay. I guess I get to sign the paper.
Okay.
Okay. Next. Superintendent search, that's me. I received an email today from Norm Ryder. Let me find it. It says, let me get down here. I thought I would give an update on the superintendent search. Listed below is information you may want to share with the school board. For candidate information, the number of candidates, 32. Woo.
Wow.
States represented, 20. Colorado applicants, 9. Superintendent experience, 15. Central office experience, 9. Site leadership, 8. It goes on, says, Paul and I will screen the candidates based on the criteria the school board established. We will bring a list of all the candidates to the April 13th meeting along with our recommendations, which will be a short list. We will have video interviews for the school board to view of the short list of the candidates during executive session. The school board will select the finalists, develop interview questions, and discuss an interview schedule for the finalists during their executive session on the 13th of April. He suggests that we visit with our attorney so that we make sure that we do everything correctly. So I just thought that was great news. So I kind of jotted down a few things that I thought would be good. I was kind of hoping that we could narrow our candidates down to 3. And then in that case, then have 3 groups to do interviews. And one group would be community and parent. Another group would be staff and administration. And then the third group would be our board. Now, then and they recommend we only have 10 members per group. But if we have 4 candidates, we might want to add another group. How does the board feel about that?
I think that's good, Sherry. I think that's pretty much what we did last time, and it seemed to work pretty well.
So when it came to who would be in the groups, they suggested, Paul and I talked quite some time on the phone, and he suggested that we open it up and say, if you're interested in the interview process and want to participate, please contact us. And so I've asked Phyllis to put it on our website. Once we approve it, if this is what the board wants to do, then it would be put on the website, it would be posted in the newspaper, and have people call us. And if we get more than 10 people in one or all the groups, well, except the board, I would say that we do a hat drawing and we open it to the public. So that none of us are picking the people that we think that should be in on it. It's completely transparent and clear. How do you feel?
I think that's a great idea. I think that can, show that we're not picking any certain group.
Right.
Yeah, I think that we should. So I guess I'm not understanding. If we interview 4 candidates?
Then we would maybe have another group of community and parents.
Okay, I didn't know who those would consist of.
Yeah, or,
Okay.
just, it would be a decision we have to make at the April meeting, but because we won't select our groups until we know what we're looking at.
Yeah. I guess, Sherry, I think that there should be a few organizations represented, and I'm particularly thinking of the hospital, the Osprey, some of the really big employers that are likely to have, children in our school district. And I'd like to, I think taking a random selection of some people is perfectly fine, but there's at least a couple of organizations that I think should be represented.
But when we start doing that, Jack, we'll have to include the police department, the fire department. And, we can't just pick and choose the business people that we want.
Well, no, I understand that. And we had, we had a rep, we had the chief of police was on the committee last time, Roy Lane. I don't care. I don't feel really strongly about it, but
I wonder if maybe those places, the sheriff's department, the police department, the hospital, the fire department, the city, if they would be willing to put something out on their website or to their employees.
And
ask them if they've got people that want to be on it, then we can say that we've, included those.
Do you think that we're going to have more than 10 community members?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. And we can always make more groups. I just think it would be.
I think you can get
tough on
too many.
I think so too, because it'll make it tough on the people we interview.
Yeah.
So we got to.
I know when I interviewed, it was a lot more than 10 in the committee,
Yeah.
except for the board. The board was the smallest one as it should be,
Yeah.
but they were a very large group.
Yeah, I think when you put more than 10 in those,
But
then you're.
they recommend 10 because then that way nobody's overshadowed.
Absolutely.
So I think let's have Phyllis go ahead and advertise this, and then at our April meeting, decide how many members and how we're going to go about it. Does that make sense? That will give us all time to think and contemplate, but we can still get the word out for people to, because I'm getting emails asking me how to get on that list. I don't know if anybody else is or not.
I've been asked a couple of just in the grocery store.
Yeah, so anyway, just get it out so that people know we're going to be getting names, gathering names, and then at our April meeting, determine how we're going to do it. Jack, does that sound okay?
Sure.
Chris?
Yeah, how do we go about what's the process of narrowing it down to just 4? If there's.
Well, what I read is they're going to bring us probably 6 or 7 candidates and let us look at their interviews and their paperwork, and then we'll select from them.
Okay.
So we're not going to get to see all 32 because they're going through and checking references, work experience, and making sure that they are what they say they are. They're calling them for us.
Okay.
If I may speak, this is Norm Ritter.
Oh, thank you for joining
Hi.
us.
Oh, you bet. Always entertaining to watch the school board. But anyway, the process is this, is that we come into that executive session with Paul will, and I'll probably be virtual. Paul, because he's closer, but also he's getting more and more experience. Anyway, we will give you all 32 candidates, okay? And we will walk through each candidate if you choose to do so, because that takes time. Tell you why we didn't bring it forward or why we did bring it forward. Then we give you a short list of 6 to 8 candidates, probably. Right now, I'm looking at 7. I'm doing the vetting. And there's 7 of them that can do the job for you very well. Okay. So anyway, then we ask these candidates to do videos and they respond to 3 questions. And then you will see those videos. That way, because there's a lot of decisions that are made at that point. And usually you're able to narrow it down to 3, 4 candidates from that point. And then after that, then you start determining the type of questions you're going to ask. And we will work through that with you as well. Paul will work it through that with you as well. I see Paul's on with us tonight. So anyway, I just wanted to walk through that process for you, Chris, so that you understood what the process is. And the board, this is the board's process. This is the board's selection, and you're gonna get a good one. But it's in your hands. It's not ours. Okay. Any questions of us?
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, did you have anything to say? How are you doing today?
No, I'm doing well, thank you. I heard earlier you're talking about second vaccinations, and just a heads up, it hits you like a truck. So just a word of warning. Yeah, no, I'm still shoveling out from a weekend of snow, so hopefully send that water down your way. But yeah, as Norm said, I will plan to be there in person, and we'll, between now and then, I'll work both with you, Sherry, as well as Phyllis, to start to put together a question bank for the board to be able to kind of consider questions to ask of the candidates. So we'll do that. We'll be able to carry that out between now and April, and then again we can have it's your decision in terms of numbers of groups and composition of groups. So we'll support whatever direction the board wants to go with that.
Okay, thank you. So
Thank you.
board, it's in your court, and I would say that by our next meeting, we need to have it pretty well down to what we want. And then we can start the group selections. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Norman and Paul.
I have one more thing. I forgot. One more thing. Can I jump in here?
Absolutely.
We are going to send you a confidentiality agreement so we can send all the application information short of references, because you always want to keep references confidential, but you're going to get the full packet of each of the ones that we're going to include on the short list. But we're going to have each board member sign a confidentiality agreement. Paul will manage that, and that will be coming from the McPherson Jacobson. That way you're going to get this 2 to 3 days ahead of time. So you'll come into the meeting knowing these people pretty well already. Okay. I forgot to say that.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'll coordinate with Phyllis the details of that. So.
Right. Okay, good. Thanks. I forgot about that.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, let's move along. Tammy.
Good evening, fellow board members and everyone else. So I'm bringing a report to you from the Legislative Resolution Committee, and they are watching quite a few education bills that are out there and that are changing daily, if not hourly. And the position that this committee takes as we dive into these bills, basically, it's looking at the position of, does CASB want to support them, as we see at our winter legislative meetings, and when we take our vote on these bills, they'll be presented at election time. So they really want to make sure that when we are supporting a bill, that it's not just from CASB and it's not just from those community members, but it's also from our local board, because we are local governed board members, right? So I have sent you, and I apologize for the lateness of sending it to you this afternoon on a particular bill. And it's House Bill 21-1200, and it's the revised student financial literacy standards. And basically, it's just making sure that our students, 9 through 12, have a complete understanding on the costs associated with obtaining a post-secondary degree and credentials, and how to budget for and manage the payment in those costs, particularly around understanding how to put FAFSA together. As we all know, that's a large undertaking, and you almost have to have a separate degree on how to fill out FAFSA. So this bill's coming forward to say, we want to make sure those students have that understanding, as long with our families, of course. But the conversation also went a little bit deeper with our life skills, with just having our students being able to have basic needs on math of how to understand to fill out just a job application, reconcile your checkbook. And I know even as adults, some of us may not know what that even means. A debit card runs just the same as a check, but some of our students and younger adults don't understand how to even fill out a check. So within this committee, we had quite a census of, well, we make it half a credit within our either our math curriculum or social studies to make sure that those students have those basic understandings. But what I'm asking tonight, Lord, excuse me, Lord. It's kind of hard to talk through this mess. But what I'm asking for is, would this be something that our board would say, yes, Casby, we want you to endorse it, which helps at the board, at the state legislative level. So when the senators and the legislators, representatives look at these bills and they see that CASB supports it along with the legislative resolution, along with case, that they know that this is a board or a bill that is also going to be supported from those local boards. It's just a report, just kind of getting a little bit of feedback. I know it was a late hour, so you can respond to me phone or respond to the email I sent out to you. I just wanted to bring it forward because I believe the House sponsors is Representative Rich. Excuse me, he's Republican. And then Kip, and then our state senators, London and Bridges are the four that are sponsoring these bills. So I gave you a link, and that link will give you any updates to these bills as well. So, but LRC is meeting every other week, and we meet for about 2 hours, diving and dissecting into and taking a vote if we're going to support it or not. Doesn't mean the bill's not going to go through if we don't support it, but it just kind of helps kind of give it that extra eco boost.
But Tammy, I can tell you that I've had several parents come up and ask me why we don't teach our kids how to reconcile a bank statement.
I worked at a bank and I asked them the same thing.
So
when they came before me and said, I don't know why my bank account is negative.
yeah.
I don't either.
So anyway, I mean, I personally, I would support it because of the input that I've had from parents, but I suggest you guys get a hold of Tammy and let her know.
And then I just would like to give permission to visit with Eric a little bit, maybe after the board meeting this week or next week, to go over what that looks like. With our graduation reports or Jeanette, with
Well, and I would also like to add with the revision of the standards. When the standards came out, oh gosh, now I lost it here, but the first time around, the financial literacy standards were housed both in the math and the economics under social studies. With this revision, they moved them all to social studies.
Right.
So those standards no longer live in math. So just a point of clarification on that, but now they're all kind of housed in economic standards in the social studies area.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I know. Okay. Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Does anybody else have a board report request? Okay, moving right along. Citizens address the board. Now's the time for you to type something in. Since you did not call in to speak, then you can only type it in. And I can't read it, so. And I've got the wrong glasses.
Yeah, I don't have my glasses on either.
Kyle, could you read that to me?
Yeah, it says, just a big thank you to everyone involved in organizing the vaccine events for district staff and service providers. The first event was so well organized and truly joyful. I'm so hopeful to be getting my second on Tuesday. Very appreciative. And I'm not sure. Okay. KCH.
Okay. Is that the same one?
Or getting my second on Saturday.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that my mother has had her second one and she had a little bit of a sore arm. And that was all. Now, that evening, she looked pale and said that she didn't feel really well and she slept a lot, but she never got sick. And then I have a really close friend that lives in Albuquerque. And he has COPD and everything else, and I've been communicating with his wife, and she said that he has done excellent after his second one, that he felt kind of icky the first night, and after that, he was great. So I think the older teachers might be in better shape than the younger ones.
Well, and again, I'd just like to, acknowledge Carol and Sue Cecilia on coordinating with the health department.
Yes.
And having the health department add staff basically and volunteers. There was quite a few volunteers, in fact, some
And I
firefighters
think
were
that
coming
Jack
in
did
and
a lot
giving
of
the
that too.
immunization, so thank
There's
you.
another one.
It says,
Okay,
from Mindy Nelson. I'm sorry. Last month, you put up a link for the District D lawsuit. Could you please put that up again?
for the what?
The District D lawsuit?
I think Chris had all of that, didn't you, Chris?
Yeah, no,
I actually think I may have it still.
yeah, Lori, I had the case file. I still have it here. Cut hair versus Montezuma-Cortez.
Mhm.
That was, and I'm pretty sure I sent that to Lori. I recall.
Yeah, I think I still have it, Chris.
Okay, can we put it up on our website?
Do we want to put it on the website or do we want to just put it in the
Or
chat
just
feature?
put it in the chat box with that, and that should work. Okay, another one?
Yes, from Mickey Crowley. As a parent of athletics or athletes, I appreciate being able to come watch the kids compete. I want to thank Mr. Chandler and Mr. Pearson and each of their staffs for their hard work. From Dave Robinson. And I would like to thank our community for the amount of support shown to our wrestling boys as they traveled the state this last week. The coaches and boys are so thankful for the support.
They did excellent too.
They were in the top 10, right?
Yeah, they all placed. Yeah, I asked Stacy what was on. Is that not correct, Stacy? They all placed?
Yeah, I think we had a third, an eighth, and a fifth placer.
That's the
Uh-huh.
fourth, the fifth, and
Oh,
then they didn't go past that, so the other one didn't have a.
oh,
Okay.
okay. And then Mancus had the state champion.
Champion. I think that it was phenomenal that our boys got to do that. Thank you.
And I mean, we should thank, Dave did too,
Yeah.
openly too.
Yes.
Because right at the end, those kids got thrown a curveball about having to test. And the health, the school-based health clinic stepped right in and helped with all those kids, Mancus, Cortez, Dolores.
So thank you, everybody that has stepped in and taken care of
Those,
our athletes.
so they stepped right in. Yeah.
Well, this is the challenges that the secondary ADs and principals have addressed. I mean, it's pretty much a daily conversation that we have to address issues that arise. So I think they really need to be acknowledged.
Is there another one? No.
That's it for now.
That's it. Okay, we're typing in the link to the District D for all of you. And you'll leave that up there for a few minutes so they can copy it down. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to our action items, our consent calendar. I need to hear a motion for that.
I make a motion to accept the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion made by Stacy, seconded by Tammy. Any discussion? Jean Bromley, she's at step 7. Is she in, is that, how many steps do we give people when they come on? I thought we gave 6, but.
It's 10 unless they were previously in the district and they come back and then all their steps are.
Okay, that was,
But 10 is the limit.
okay, that was my question. So, anything else?
I just want to take this time to thank Phyllis for all her years of being so efficient with what she does for our staff and our students, along with Sue Cecilia. Their retirements are going to be a huge impact, as all of our retirements and resignations that have happened. It's going to be a huge impact to our district. But I just want to thank you so much for your time and energy and your heart that you put into our district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Any other comments? Call for the question?
Tammy Hooten,
Aye.
Stacy Hall,
Aye.
Cody Wells,
Aye.
Jerry Wright,
Aye.
Jack Schunenmeyer,
Aye.
and Chris Flaherty.
Aye.
Okay, K-12 Native American liaison position.
I make a motion to approve the position, K-12 Native American District Coordinator and Liaison.
I second.
Motion made by Tammy, seconded by Cody. Any discussion?
So board, this is the position that Jeanette had referenced in her board agenda that will be paid through the Title VI additional funds. And that's very excited to be able to have this position, not only for, you know, the representation of our Native American students in the schools, but also building and continuing that partnership with the Navajo tribe and the Ute Mountain Ute tribe specifically, because those are the 2 tribes we have in the area, and just really create a close working relationship with that, with what we've started. So Jeanette, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I think you did a really good job, Commissioner. So, any questions? Hey, call for the question?
Tammy Hooten,
Aye.
Stacy Hall,
Aye.
Cody Wells,
Aye.
Jerry Wright,
Aye.
Jack Schunenmeyer,
Aye.
and Chris Flaherty.
Aye.
The next item is the approval to apply for school guidance, school counselor quorum grant. And I went in to sign it, but there was one part of it that I wanted to have the board tell me I could sign it. It says, just a minute, let me find it.
Do we want to call action first?
Oh, yeah, let's hear a motion for this.
I so move.
Second. Is that Jack?
Yeah.
Okay, Jack and Tammy seconded it, and I'm looking for number 11. It says school counseling positions and successful programs initiated under the grant shall be sustained by the grantee in order to potentially be considered for future Colorado School Counselor Corps grant funding. I did not want to sign something that in 5 years we're going to have to keep doing.
Can I?
Yes, please, because,
Yeah, so the purpose of this grant that we are applying for, it's due on Friday, is to support the work at the high school. So it's because it's a new grant, I just wanted to give some background. So it would be at the middle school, and it would be to really firm up the ICAP processes at the middle school. Right now, ever since I've been shepherding at the middle school, the counselors have really been focusing on SEL, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, social emotional learning at the middle school. And so to have this to develop systems and support at the middle school would be very value added to what's going on in the high school. So that's the purpose for this grant. Now, the first year is a needs assessment year. And so if we got awarded our first year, we would not be hiring any counselors, we would be not doing any of that. It's a needs assessment to see what we need to do to achieve our goals and objectives to align to the high school. With this grant, we don't have to hire a counselor. We could choose to hire a counselor in years 2, 3, or 4. But it would fund, and what's really important is the implementation of the work. And to get some systems and processes in place at the middle school where students are really thinking about college and career readiness. And that's what ICAP stands for. Sorry, I'm using an acronym. It's Individual Career and Academic Plan. So there is a potential to hire a counselor. We could write that in the grant. We could not write that in the grant. But that wouldn't happen until year 2, because after we do the needs assessment, that will drive what we do. And then as far as number 11, Angie Sock is our district improvement manager who works on grants. She had a conversation with CDE this morning to get some clarification on this particular assurance. And that's what number 11 is on the assurance page of the grant.
Yeah.
And they are encouraging us to apply for the grant, knowing some of our circumstances, and they're really excited that it's in alignment to the RISE grant and the HDI work. They were very familiar with the HDI work. So basically what it's saying is they do want sustainability. And I think from our perspective, we want sustainability of the outcomes of the grant. And that's the ICAP. That's getting systems and structures in place so that you don't always have to have a person doing it, but you have it embedded into the process. Yes. And so that's really where our purpose is coming from, to write the grant. And he's, like I said, Andy Tucker with CDE is encouraging us to apply for this. And where this, and if I could just kind of go back to that language, is that it has to be sustained in order to be considered for future grants.
Right.
So if we didn't sustain it in that way, we're still okay, but it would put a barrier on future counselor core grants.
Right.
So I just kind of wanted to clarify that. And I also wanted to clarify, we're not just looking for another counselor. There's a purpose for alignment to the high school to do, because if you talk to Eric, you know, they're like, and in fact, I was reading through your UIP, you know, they're getting freshmen who are not ready to do the work, the career college work, and to be ready to do that work. So if we're really gonna, you know, give our kids an opportunity, we have to start in the middle school.
Right.
And so that's what the purpose of this is. And so just kind of want to explain that background. I hear your concern, but we did hear from Andy Tucker. He's encouraging us.
Well, I talked to Angie, and I would have signed it then, except that I don't want to sign something that involves the board without your knowledge. So we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. We've had some discussion. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a issue going on right here. It's just
you are muted.
I have to enter.
I think that's Chris.
I have to enter through the phone. I'm muted. I'm about to lose my power to this. It won't charge. So it's a phone number 3177 if you can unmute me.
So. 177.
317.
Yeah.
317, just unmuted.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, there we go.
There
Sorry
it
about
is.
that.
We were a little worried you were going into the twilight zone.
I couldn't, the charger won't keep up, the iPad won't keep up with the draw, for the video. And I was like, I'm about to drop the home.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, your concern was?
I think that was the.
I didn't have a concern with anything Jeanette was saying. I just needed to be unmuted before I lost connection.
Okay. So does anybody else have a concern?
Is there a particular dollar amount that we're looking for to go forward with the grant?
In the first year, you could apply from 25,000 to 50,000. And again, that's a needs assessment year. I think we would hire some outside consultants who've done this work to do the needs assessment. And in years 2, 3, and 4, it would be up to 80,000 per year.
Okay.
So that's what the money's used for the first year, is the needs assessment and to hire someone to do that needs assessment.
Yeah, and we could do it with district, but I think just if we could find somebody who's done it before and Andy can get us in touch with some of that, then we can have a real thorough, deep needs assessment and knowing the work that we're doing with the high school. So we wouldn't even be able to request for a counselor if that was the outcome of the needs assessment until year 2.
Okay.
So
That's awesome because
if you
you can
think of
see-
the project design that we have going on at the high school, which is, really exciting, and you'll see part of the parts of that coming together during the discussion item with our coordinators. But for the sake of this, our project design is this. And so, and we wanted to go down to 6th grade. We wanted to be a continuity 6 to 12, and quite frankly, some of the competencies in the elementary. So we're backwards designing it. So with this project design, what parts do we need and how are we going to fund it? And this is part of the funding cycle of really trying getting that work done at the middle school. So it's a great opportunity.
Well, I like the idea you're bringing somebody in to look at it because so many times we can't see because we're right in the middle of it.
Right, and we're so busy, it's hard to put dedicated time to it. So, yeah, so we would, we're gonna add for consulting on that needs assessment.
Okay. Thanks, Jeanette.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, call for the question.
Tammy Hooten,
Aye.
Stacy Hall,
Aye.
Cody Wells,
Aye.
Sherry Wright,
Aye.
Jack Schunenmeyer,
Aye.
and Chris Flaherty.
Aye.
Thank you. I started to sign it without bringing it through the board, but I just felt like it was important for the board to know. Okay. Supplemental budget, Bryce grant. 257,138. Jack, do you have that?
I do. Okay, as you said, this is a RISE's Response Innovation and Student Equity Grant. The source of funding is CDE in the amount of $257,138. That's the total revenue. And let's see, okay. And it breaks it down into about a whole bunch of categories. I don't know if I need to read all the subdivisions. Salaries, it goes salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplemental materials, capital outlay. And then it's be it resolved by the Board of Education, School District number RE1 in Montezuma County, that the amount of $257,138 as shown above be appropriated to the 224 fund for the program year beginning July the 1st, 2020 and ending June the 30th, 2021.
Do I hear a motion for this?
I make a
So
motion
moved.
to accept that.
Stacy made a motion. Who seconded it?
Chris.
Chris? Okay, any discussion?
Yes, I can.
This board is the innovation grant that we were awarded through the governor's grants with this additional stimulus money. And it's dedicated specifically to the work and the initiative that we have going on at the high school that we're really excited about. And I do have to acknowledge the team that put this together at the last minute. It was a very competitive grant. And so it shows the level of writing that was done in the last minute for our district to be awarded it.
Can I also add, from all the RISE grants, a select few were chosen by the governor's office to work with University of Denver and partner with them. They're going to provide us support, but they're also going to be collecting data. And so the reason we were selected because the governor's office felt like it was a strong grant and that it could be replicated to other schools. So it's pretty exciting.
That's awesome.
I think it's great that we're just reaching out to everybody, not just a few. So, any discussion? Questions?
I just want to thank the grant writers.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job.
Exactly.
It's the only reason we're staying afloat in the grants. So,
Well, and we're doing exciting work with it.
good, that's great. Okay, let's call for the question.
Tammy Hooten,
Aye.
Stacy Hall,
Aye.
Cody Wells,
Aye.
Sherry Wright,
Aye.
Jack Schoenenmeyer,
Aye.
Chris Flaherty.
Aye.
Okay. Our next supplemental budget, CCSG, House Bill 20B, $139,800. Jack, do you have that?
I do, and the source of these funds is CDE, and the reason is purchase services support for the total amount. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of School District Number RE1 in Montezuma County that the amount of $139,800 is shown above be appropriated to the 224 fund for the program year beginning July the 1st, 2020 and ending June the 30th, 2021.
Hear a motion to accept this?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Tammy, seconded by Cody. Sorry.
Kyle, do you happen to know?
Yeah, so this was approved last legislative session, and it's meant to support for expanding broadband access for preschool through 12th. And then it's part of creating Connecting Colorado Students Grant Program. So I believe we received a small dollar amount earlier in the year for this purpose as well. And I think we reapplied, and now this is the extra money coming for it. So
is this
Yeah, so these are the hotspots.
So we got 2 grants for hotspots. We got a smaller one. I don't remember anymore, December, for, I can't.
it was
remember.
less than $20,000.
Yes, and we got some hotspots, but then we were able to request more. And so we have those hotspots and they're being distributed to the schools for internet capability for families that have low or no internet connection.
And just a little more detail, I think initially we were using this place as a hub for families.
Right.
And I think there's discussion now to put it back in the buildings because they have more communication with the families and who actually needs it. So
So they can handle that.
Good, good. Any discussion, questions? Okay, call for the question.
Tammy Hooten,
Aye.
Stacy Hall,
Aye.
Cody Wells,
Aye.
Sherry Wright,
Aye.
Jack Schoenenmeyer,
Aye.
and Chris Flaherty.
Aye.
Okay, our next one is capital reserve resolution, MCHS soccer balls for $3,046.06. Jack?
Okay, the funds available for this are $301,711.98. The amount requested is $3,046.06. It's for MCHS soccer goals. It's identified by a needs assessment. The rationale for the request is existing soccer goals are damaged beyond repair. The purchase of 2 new goals is necessary for the soccer season. Multiple bids were provided. Business office confirmed funds are available. No permit is required. Project coordinated with maintenance and IT departments, approved by Jamie Hawkness, 5/8/2021. Whereas the administration has need for an additional $3,046.06 to purchase soccer goals for MCHS. Therefore be it resolved that $3,046.06 is authorized for expenditure from the Capital Reserve Fund.
Your motion to accept this?
I'll make the motion to accept.
Motion made by Cody, second.
I second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Stacy. Discussion.
So, board, this is to replace the soccer goals at the high school that were vandalized. And the amount was cheaper just to pay it than to, file an insurance claim.
Okay. Any comments?
Just to correct the date that was read, it's actually March 8th and not 5th, correct? Right.
Okay. Any more comments? Okay. Call for the question.
Tammy Hooten,
Aye.
Stacy Hall,
Aye.
Cody Wells,
Aye.
Jerry Wright,
Aye.
Jack Schunenmeyer,
Aye.
and Chris Flaherty.
Aye.
Okay, the next one is our second reading for policy adoption. CBGG, I'm sorry, GBGG, GBGH, GBGL. So, do I hear a motion to accept this?
I move to accept.
Motion made by Jack,
I'll second.
seconded by Tammy. Any discussion? It's a lot of reading, a lot of new stuff, but
The one thing I'd like to highlight, which was a concern from board member Stacy Hall, is we did address the 11-month contract. So that we have the 10 for 8 days, 11 for 9, and then 12 for 10. I know that was a request.
It was.
and thank you, because we need to be fair for all groups. So, any other comments? Okay, call for the question.
Tammy Hooten,
Aye.
Stacy Hall,
Aye.
Cody Wells,
Aye.
Jerry Wright,
Aye.
Jack Schunenmeyer,
Aye.
and Chris Flaherty.
Aye.
Okay, we're ready for discussion items. Homegrown initiative update. Who's going to speak on that?
Do we have other people coming?
Their meeting on virtual.
Is it
Okay.
Chad Lewis and?
Yes.
Katie?
Katie Shaw.
Yes. What's Katie's last name? Okay, so board, I would just like to officially introduce 2 people that will be attending electronically, and I'm just going to say their first names, and it's actually Chad and Katie, and they will be actually leading up under Eric Chandler's leadership, the work moving forward with the homegrown initiative, which you've heard bits and pieces of how it's coming together. And so we're just very excited to share the work. And I have to say, I was in a meeting last week with all 3 and Jeanette Allen, and it's just absolutely exciting work that's moving forward. So I'm excited to share it with the board tonight.
Very good.
So thank you for that. And I just want to do a little introduction. I'm going to turn over to Ted and Katie to kind of take it since they're the coordinators for these. So we have the 2 different grants. We have the Homegrown Talent Initiative that we've been involved with for a little over a year, and recently the RISE grant. which you just heard about. But what's going to happen from here on is you really are not going to hear about these grants, because what these are doing is they're just helping us move the direction of the high school forward the way we want to go. And so this is just kind of the jumpstart funding for us to get there. So we really aren't going to talk about homegrown doing this, RISE doing that. It's really what the high school is doing moving forward. And when you really look at both of what this initiative is about, one of the reasons I reluctantly decided to become the principal and take over the position was that.
And you're still here.
I'm still here. But
They're at the backside.
it took a while, yeah. So, but when we came into this, it was, we have been doing such a great job with getting our students prepared for college. And that has been the focus of education for the last 10 to 20 years. And it's just been about, getting kids into a four-year school and getting them ready for post-secondary in that way. And for 50% of our kids, we do a great job. But what this is going to do, this direction that we're moving as a high school is going to help support our other 50%, because those are the ones that are entering right into the workforce. And so that's where we're not going to move away from getting them ready for post-secondary for college, but we're going to support our other students getting them ready. So that's kind of where we're at with these. And I think I'll turn it over to Chad and Katie, can they share a screen there? Great, okay.
All right, thank you, Eric. Working with Tamara now to kind of get that screen sharing going. But while we're working on that, we can go ahead and get started. Again, my name's Katie Strickta, and I'm so excited to, for the last 6 years, I've been in this district as a teacher, and I'm really excited to be starting my new role as the RISE Grant Coordinator.
Hi, folks. My name is Chad Wheelis, and I am the new HTI coordinator. And I have been in the district for 23 years, and I am certainly excited about the work as well, and looking forward to sharing more of it with you guys.
So hopefully you all can see the screen at this point. We just wanted to kind of give a brief overview of the work that we're doing. And so Chad will kick it off with the why.
So sort of the why of this whole HTI work and the RISE grant most recently coming in is sort of a pendulum swing in education. And Eric mentioned this, and I will say I was also glad to hear a number of threads of sort of post-secondary readiness lingo weave its way through the board meeting tonight around things like financial literacy, again, post-secondary readiness, ICAP requirements, and those sorts of things. So really what has happened is there's been a number of corporate sponsors out there, including the Daniels Fund, the Adolph Coors Fund. So some big sponsors out there that have decided that it would be really important for local communities to really deepen their talent pool. So they have partnered with the state and a number of educational partners, including CEI, which is the Colorado Education Initiative, Colorado Succeeds, to implement this in 8 different districts around the state. Montezuma-Cortez got chosen as one of those districts. And I think Jeanette and Lori both spoke to this. I think it says a lot for our grant writers and the folks in administration reaching out and pulling these initiatives and so forth in. So boiling on down from that, one of HTI's big goals is to work with community partners to establish these partnerships and get input about how the initiative and how the work should go in our school, which then becomes a mutually beneficial relationship between the community partners and the business leaders and other organizations, again, throughout the community. So with that, we work with the teachers, obviously students, parents, to come up with some of the structures and strategies to really strengthen our WBL, which is our work-based learning program, our post-secondary workforce readiness structures and strategies. And we'll talk a little bit about that vision now, if Katie will kind of pop over into that. So we're going to keep it pretty simple for you guys to see, and then the sort of the big picture idea here, the vision, as Eric so eloquently spoke to, is the idea that the RISE grant and the HTI grant are very compatible. They align very well. So really this becomes just a MCHS district-wide, community-wide endeavor. And what we're really looking to do is wrap all this work that we're doing around what's been called the graduate profile. And I feel like many of you have kind of started seeing the initial sort of workings of this. And what it's really broken down into is sort of 4 categories. And these align very well with CDE's career continuum, which I'm not going to go into depth about. But what we've broken them down into are foundations, the idea of connectedness, sort of professional skills. I think I heard someone on the board mention being able to balance a checkbook, or improving some of that financial literacy, or fill out a job application. That's kind of where you would see that. And then really the key to it is having a much better future orientation. And I think Jeanette spoke to this about really backing that up all the way into the middle school, and then down the road, possibly even into elementary school. So really getting students to start thinking about practicing, building skills around career awareness and where they're going from a very early point in time. And that's been something that's been lacking in education for a while. And it's not that it's not there. It's happening in lots of great pockets around the school, around the district. But I think what these 2 grants really do is allow us to sort of coalesce that and really emphasize it. So with that said, that's kind of the vision and the why. And I'm going to let Katie, because she's probably a lot better at this than I am, talk about how we're going to do it. So thank you, folks.
So we wanted to give you kind of a broad overview of the how we're hoping to go about kind of creating this ultimate graduate of our programs in our schools that is able to do all of these real life things. And we want to make sure that we say that our focus is really to build upon structures and systems that already exist, with the purpose of enhancing our offerings for our students. So a lot of the things that Chad's describing and that we're talking about here are things that our guidance counselors and our teachers and our programs at the high school have already been working to do for a while. And really, they've made some fantastic steps in getting us there. What we're excited about right now is that it's kind of that time. Eric always uses the analogy that we've always had the puzzle pieces, but now we're finally able to start putting them together. And these grants kind of provide those resources that we can use to make this work happen. So without it getting too deep of detail with this, I guess, kind of our big projects that we're focusing on right now are, as Chad was alluding to, creating these work-based learning experiences and these internships. So recognizing that our students are going to learn outside of our building as well as within, and fostering opportunities for them to get out there and have those learning opportunities. Along with that comes providing coaching opportunities for our students. So before we push them out into the real world, making sure that we're equipping them with those soft skills and those professional skills to make sure that they can be successful as they go out to do that. Also kind of alluded to in this meeting is the concept of our guidance alignment. So we're really lucky right now at the high school. We have an outstanding guidance department. At the middle school, we have an outstanding guidance department. And part of this project is to bring those groups together and make sure that we're aligning our offerings for our students, especially when it comes to post-secondary readiness. One thing that I'm really excited about is this concept of flexible scheduling and working to create that. So within this pandemic, one thing that we've learned for sure is that regular 8-hour school day sitting in classrooms, it serves many of our students, but it doesn't necessarily meet the needs of all of our students. So especially as we have families in our communities who are continuing to face health concerns or economic concerns, or for these students who want to get out of school and pursue these learning opportunities outside of our classrooms, working to examine our master schedule to allow for this flexible scheduling, and also working to build out our own online course options through MCSD taught by our teachers, aligned with our curriculum that meet our standards of rigor and also allow those students that flexibility. And then finally, a not quite as glamorous one, but still important, we keep talking about that ICAP and that career and post-secondary planning piece. We're working on implementing a new platform to house that so that when students begin these, let's say, career exploration in the 6th grade, that information stays with them all the way through the end of their time in high school. So these are some of the projects we're working on, kind of the most urgent ones, but we look forward to kind of keeping up with you all throughout this process to keep you updated. So we recognize that you all have a very, very busy agenda this evening, but we did want to take a moment to open the floor for any questions you might have.
I don't have a question, but I think this is a wonderful idea. I've been in was the board representative for a while with the homegrown initiative, and I coordinated the internship program at the University of Delaware for a number of years. And I've had a couple of interns help me out on projects at the high school level here in the RE1 district. So I think that's really important. I think the integration of material is something that's really needed. And I think, Chad made the comment that it hasn't been done for a while. I think it probably hasn't been done for 100 years or so. So I think that's really important. And part of the preparation for whether it's kids going into college or kids going into a trade school is that none of us can, we can barely predict what's going to happen 10 years from now, much less in the lifetime of a lot of the kids will be graduating within the next few years. So it's important that they understand a whole variety of skills and be able to integrate them and learn and recognize the importance of constantly learning. My wife has some of her brothers run a small electrical contracting business, and that has changed an awful lot. I mean, it's not stringing wires from one place to another. It's understanding an awful lot about the current technology. So I think this is great.
I just want to say thank you. I have thought for a long time that not every student is college material. And you have taken my deepest desires and have formed them into something that is workable. Thank you.
I'm excited to see where we can go.
Well, it's nice to have the plan in place.
Yes.
So I really look forward to seeing where the high school is and the district is this time next year. I think we're going to be very, very surprised and very pleased with this.
Well, I've been hearing some really neat things from kids, the high school kids that are seeing this form, and they're really excited. So
And it sounds to me like you've got two people who are young and enthusiastic and ready to jump in. And I think these two people are gonna be awesome to.
We've got a great team. Ted and Katie are gonna be fabulous at leading this, you know, this is the vision that we're going as a school. You know, the grants are helping us get started, but that's just the beginning of it, because we won't see the repercussions of this for a few years to come. You know, long after these grants are gone, which is why we're not gonna talk about the grants, we're just talking about the direction of the school, because this is the way we wanna go. And whether it's college bound or career bound, it doesn't really matter, because these are all those soft skills. And it's,
Absolutely.
these are the reasons why people lose jobs in any profession.
Yeah, we just got this in our board packet, and I was talking about how wonderful it is, and that's what your mom was very similar to what this is, and I'm going, I want to do this.
So is this gonna be a class that kids will sign up for? How is this?
It'll be run, well, there's different components of it. It could be a class, I mean, there's aspects of that. It will also be part of advisement. It'll be just part of what the school is doing across the board. It'll be integrated into all the classes across the curriculum, you know, and then just finding ways to demonstrate that they've met these competencies that are based off of the graduate profile that was developed.
I think it's great. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Could I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, I was just hoping I could just say a final comment. I know that Lori's leaving us, but I just know she's been a strong driver of this, and I appreciate the work that she's put in up front to get us to here. And I'd also say again, I appreciate the board listening to us and supporting us down the road in this work. It is important work, and I think it's going to do progress the school forward in a lot of really good ways. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You
Chad.
bet.
Thank you, Katie. And
Thank you.
I'm one more comment. I'm sure Chad's gonna do well because we're both dogs. You want to tell him what that means, Chad? Dogs are University of Georgia mascots.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. Go dogs. Sick 'em. Thanks, Jack.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, our next is GBGM, staff discretionary leave. I'm really excited about this, but do you want to touch on it?
I think the biggest part of this being under the discussion item is I know we have over 90 people attending this board meeting, and a large portion of them, I'm assuming, is staff. And just to let them know that this will be adopted at a later date, but that the board is committed with this policy going forward for next fall when they return.
Absolutely. You'll see it next year. We're excited about it. Very excited about it. Happy to revise it. So next, school land dedication, resolution.
And so we originally had this on as an action item, and then Kyle had the suggestion to have it as a discussion item and then bring it back to the board as an action item at the next board meeting. Kyle and I went and met with the planning and zoning and the county administrator and had a very good discussion in relation to this, and really worked out some, I think, communication between the county and the district, like creating a fact sheet that the county will hand out, explaining what Kyle's going to go over in the resolution. And so the people coming in and subdividing will get the fact sheet, and then again, we'll go over it when they come here. And I do have to acknowledge that I did tell Mr. Hicks that I would bring it up again, because I had a conversation with him that he is still struggling with this on how he is impacting the school district. So I just want to make sure that that's duly noted, because I'm sure he's listening, and I will be following up with him again after this board meeting. And so, but really going into this, and one of the exciting things that came out of this was one fee, because with the way that the county records the subdivisions, there's really not a way to designate whether it's a mobile home, is it going to be just a subdivision, a small subdivision, or a resident subdivision. And so that's very exciting. So Kyle did a really nice job laying this out when we met with the county. And so I'll let him talk about the resolution specifically, Kyle.
All right, thank you, board members. So this was one of the first things that came across my desk after coming to Montezuma-Cortez School District. And one of the concerns from a community member was why we're paying this fee and kind of the explanation behind why they're being charged. So I'll just start off with the statute and kind of explain what it does. So state law CRS 30-28-133 allows the Board of County Commissioners, upon the request of local school boards of education, to acquire land or payment in lieu of land to be held for use and benefit of the owners and future owners in a proposed subdivision. So there was a resolution passed in 2007 by the school board with some amounts that were created from a consultant that came in and kind of studied what land values were at that time. They also look at how many homes we have within the county, what the average number of people living in those homes, how many families above 4. So there's all kinds of different statistics that go into that. Ultimately, they came out with 3 different fee rates for a single unit rate, a multi-unit rate, and a mobile home rate. As far back as I can tell, and I did a little bit of analysis, we've always charged $817, the single rate. And so that was one of the questions we brought up to the county. And they said, if it's anything above a single home, we would see that benefit on the property tax side. So if it's a large condominium setup or apartment, something like that, we would see the property tax benefit. So they wouldn't charge a multi-unit because they wouldn't know in advance. So we came to an agreement that if we were going to charge a fee, it'd be less confusing to charge one flat fee so that everybody knew what it was for and there was no confusion on what the impact was. We did a little bit more research into the rate, and along with the legal counsel of the district, we found different, board policies across the state and how they went about the resolutions. And what we found was the price that we initially set was much lower than other districts had set, even back in 2007. So in order to bring this up to date and to be online with other districts around the state that are doing this, and keep in mind, not only school districts have this option, it's any local entity within a county. So cities can do this, nonprofits, if they have the commissioner's approval, can also state an impact fee. So what we decided, and what I did, is kind of looked with Jack's help, some land value amounts specific to Colorado. So I went back and looked at the number of housings that were in the county from 2006 to now and what that change was. I looked at the dollar increases of houses when they were built, what the average price was in 2007 to 2020. We also looked at the change in the number of new homes built in the county from 2006 to now and got that percentage. And then I also did a national average of what land values were in 2007 versus right now. And so in a correlation with all those different percentages that came out, it was very in line to what districts are charging now. So it was about a 30% increase on that single rate, which brings it to $1,043.85. And that's I don't want to say competitive, but that correlates to what other districts would be charging today for land values today. So this was kind of where we agreed with the county. And so I created a fact sheet that both the district and the county can refer to when we're approached with questions about why this fee is being implemented or why the cost is what it is. And with that, I just wanted to present you this draft of the fact sheet. If we decide to amend the resolution, so that you saw what I'm gonna present to the county and have them kind of agree on, and then it'll be a final draft at the end. There was lots of work by a lot of different people to try and get this information and see where we were at. Just to give you an idea, we anticipate receiving about $15,000 a year, and that was at the old rate. And so just to give you an idea, that's kitchen equipment for the year on the capital reserve plan, or that's maybe redoing an asphalt at one of the buildings. So it is small dollars when you look at like HVACs and things like that, but it is still something that to redo the sidewalks, there's things like that it does cover at the end of the day. So with that, if there's any questions or comments or concerns, I can try to answer those.
This is for subdivisions, correct?
Correct.
So if you have 20 acres and you have a homeowner and you decide you want to keep 15 acres and sell 5 with your home, is that subdividing?
It is.
So at one time it was, if you had 8 acres or less cut out, it was not called subdivision, or you could do one time. I don't know, because these are questions that have been asked to me.
Right.
And I don't know, years and years and years ago, back when I was young, and we sold our house and 6 acres, and it was not considered a subdivision.
So that.
So, but I'm talking 40 years ago. But so I guess the law, and the laws changed, obviously. So but there's a lot of people old school like me, and they're asking this, Mr. Hicks. So, but it's now, it is called subdivision, no matter what it is. You divide the land, even if it's a half an acre, it is a subdivision.
Right. If the county's allowing you to subdivide, the idea is that now or in the future, a home could be put on that. That's kind of the idea.
What if there's already a home? Oh, well, you're subdividing now. Okay, never mind. I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to keep it clear in my head because I'm being asked these questions.
And to be honest with you guys, board, when we went to the county and doing some research, there's actually case law that says that the money potentially should be collected by the county because they are the ones that determine impact. So different schools have different policies written up about how that's determined. We don't have one necessarily, so all we can refer to is statute.
How does this relate to school trust lands?
To
School trust lands?
to tribal lands?
No,
Trust lands.
Yes.
School trust.
Oh, I couldn't tell. How so? Give me an example, I guess.
Well, it used to be that out of, they used to have like what they call the school section, if you had and I don't even know how many acres, but you would have.
640.
It would be dedicated land for a school. So this is taking its place.
Right, this is fee in lieu of that, and in lieu of taking land. And so that resolution that was approved says that we'll accept payment instead of giving me 0.13 part of your acre.
I was informed one time by somebody that deals with the trust lands that most of the malls in Phoenix are on school trust lands. So all that rent goes to schools. Phenomenal. Why isn't Colorado doing that? But anyway, Colorado does have some still.
Right.
It's just wanted to clarify that.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Any more questions?
Do you know if any other schools in our area do this?
Yeah.
Dolores.
And they were actually all approved by the county commissioners on the same date. It was October 10th, 2007.
So there was something magical about that date. Obviously.
I think from what I've been told, someone just discovered that at that point in time. And so they went and told the school districts, hey, this is money you're missing out on.
Yeah, I was on the board with that. Exactly what happened.
Yeah, someone else had told me that.
Yeah. They're going, why aren't you collecting this money? Came to the state. Why aren't you doing this?
Yeah.
We're going, we didn't know we could.
But I have concerns both ways. I mean, yeah, it's $15,000. It's minimal amount of money that the district collects every year, and it does help that. But on the other end of it, the aspect that we just continue to tax and tax and tax these people, and I think that we're looking at more money if what they said, you've got 20 acres and you subdivide that out into 5-acre plots, you're getting X amount of dollars from one person on 20 acres of farmland. And you've got all these people that build $300,000 homes. You're gonna get a lot more money from those people for those $300,000 homes. I mean, and as a real estate person, I would think that you would kind of have some.
Probably not the place for money.
But I mean, I think that that's something that we could look at as a board saying, you know, we could be doing this, but we're choosing not to do this, or, you know, because I see it both ways. I really do. I see where it is. I mean, $15,000 is a good chunk of money, but is it worth the battle that we're fighting some of the people right now?
So, yeah, and this is, we need to have a discussion now because we vote on it at our next meeting. So it's $1,043.
And I guess to me, with this land use, when I think subdivisions, I think of developed communities or future communities that require a master plan. That would be a major impact to a school district if that many lots were developed and built upon, and the people moved into those areas and changed the population of the community. I think it's when you have an individual subdividing one part of his property, it's hard to see the impact to the school for me. So I'm with Stacy. I'm kind of split on it both ways because it is a benefit to the school, but at what cost? You know, I think when Sherry, you said, you know, when you were on the board and you passed this is because of the climate back then.
Right,
and
it's totally different, yeah.
Yeah, and you had those, you know, you can see some of the Brandon's Gate. I don't know if that was one of them, or you know, over there by the golf course. You know, you just had a lot of master plan community, potential communities that were going to be built in neighborhoods, and that's a huge impact to a school district. And I think it's too gray of a statute, I guess, you know, to say that it's that you're subdividing just because I subdivided one part of my land. It's tough one.
Chris, I agree with you on that. It was when we were developing Brandon's Gate, the golf course, and we, you know, very honestly, we saw that we could get some money that we needed desperately at that time. So this will come to a vote at our next meeting to either do a resolution or not. So I would suggest that we do some serious hard thinking on what we want to see. Yeah.
I would just recommend if you, whatever action you make, just amend your resolution that you guys approved in 2007 so that it's all still there, and that if the dollar amount needs to be minimal, whatever, that's all that's changed so that it doesn't affect anything with the flow of the.
If we completely did away with the resolution and said we're just not going to do it anymore, I think that's what you're suggesting, right, Stacy?
And not necessarily.
But,
I mean, because I see it both ways right now.
I guess what I would say is if we did that legally, would we owe anybody money that's bought
land that's done their land since January.
It wouldn't be, it would be after the approval.
We have to be open, because I was just going, I don't want to get money back.
Could you basically be recalling the resolution and that would be documented in the board minutes?
Okay.
So anything that
Would be effective at that point in time.
So I really strongly suggest that we go home and we think about this, the impact it's going to have on the community, the impact it's going to have on us as a board. And frankly, I agree with Kyle, it gives us a new sidewalk or a coat of paint, not much, but it helps.
Yeah.
And
Asphalt repair.
asphalt repair. There's a lot of things we can do, and if we do away with the resolution, and then suddenly we have an explosion of population, and we have to build new schools, which we're looking at anyway, our schools are old. Do we want to give up the money? So there's so many different angles to look at this. So please think about this at home and really think it through before we make a decision. It's like Stacy and Chris say, there's more than two sides on this one. There's many facets to it. So we need to make sure that we understand what we're voting on.
And I totally understand where Mr. Hicks is coming from. And the person that brought it to me, the very first, when it was brought up to me was they kind of like what you said, they subdivided 2 homes off of it. Those homes already existed. They didn't have, one had a child, but they brought him into school. That child was already in the school system, so it didn't, and they're not riding the bus. They sold the other piece of the property, the remaining part, to someone out of Arizona who's now farming that land. So it's kind of like Mr. Hicks. It really didn't impact and they didn't understand.
Kids grow up.
But yeah, but who's to say that these people from Arizona aren't going to develop that land
Or
in
not,
10 years?
I'm not selling to a developer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many,
Yeah.
there's so many different
Absolutely.
things to look at. So I seriously think we need to look at this very deeply. And bring it back to vote on next month. But in the meantime, Eric and Jack, thank you for all of the work we've done on this. Oh, Connor. I'm sorry.
Most welcome.
Anytime.
Kyle and Jack, thank you. You guys put in a ton of work. Okay, next on our discussion is our organizational chart. Are we doing?
Our
Okay,
organization.
So, for what I'm handing out, and Chris and Jack, you have it electronically, is for the next 2 discussions. So I realized that the calendars that you were given, one of them was a draft that had my edits on it. But for the sake of our conversation, if you'll pull out the very last page, and the board had asked for me to develop an organizational chart to present to the board and moving forward for the next academic year with the incoming superintendent. And I have to say that this has really taken some thought. And as we go through this, an organizational chart basically just lists positions. So when we talk about this, you will, and what we wanted to do was say, well, they're responsible for this and this and this, and the answer is yes, which goes into a job description, but it doesn't necessarily encompass the organizational chart and the hierarchy within the context of it. So just to walk through this, the areas that I really want to focus in with the board, quite frankly, are the blue areas, the dark blue and then the lighter blue, because those are really the direct reporting and just talks about the structure. And the titles can definitely change on the 2 on top or underneath the superintendent, but for the sake of this conversation, I wanted to outline it this way. So we have the Board of Education, which is obviously the very top of our hierarchy structure in the context of the district. And then we have the administrative assistant, which is actually shared by the Board of Education and the superintendent. And I do have to say that I asked Phyllis to mock this up for me, and I had to have her revise it because she had the arrow going from the administrative assistant to the superintendent, meaning that she was my boss. So
That's the way it works. That wasn't a mistake.
That broken flip. So in the context of this chart and really looking at the way that things flow and always, you know, I always think this is an opportunity to move forward, is on the left side specifically, as we talk about this district administration level, and quite frankly, the assistant superintendent could either go here or it could go over on a executive director of curriculum instruction. That's really the board's decision. But with this, one of the things that we have always talked about was how closely human resources and the financial department work hand in hand. And I remember one time we were, you know, having a discussion of, well, should the payroll specialists be physically in the HR where they traditionally have been, or should they be over in the business office? Because, you know, that's actually where the payroll specialist went. And then Stephanie solved it all and said, you know, I need a place where I don't get interrupted. So she has her own little spot, which works out great. But these two really go hand in hand. And so with this and thinking this out, there is a possibility that our director of human resources may need to move to take care of family reasons. So I was really looking at this and thought, you know, and I ran this by cabinet and administrators today, is, you know, really have it really categorically. One is operational, which supports the education of our students. And then on the right side, it's all about the education and what's happening in the context of our walls on the instructional side. So within the context of this, and what we had done 2 years ago was really create a couple of mid-management positions, because we had our district administrators and high-paid salaries that were basically doing a lot of the work too, because we didn't have that mid-management position. So we created the director of human resources, and then the program, federal program school improvement one over under the executive director of curriculum instruction. So in the context of that does provide some latitude. So on the left side, and this would be the operational side of our district or house, then we would have one district administrator responsible for that. And so this is like direct responsibility. Who do they report to? Because this is an organizational chart and not necessarily content. And so with the district administrator on the left side, then they would have, you know, direct reporting, the maintenance director, director of technology. The safety coordinator is one that obviously we were really talking in depth about, and how do we cover this that has a specific skill set and really keep the work and the systems going that work so well. And so one thing we had talked about was, you know, contracting out to a retired police officer or a retired fireman to head this side up. And Kyle had said that Central Consolidated did this, and it was highly effective.
Policeman and fireman.
But they had a retired sheriff, and he came in day one and had networking connections with all the fire department, EMS, everyone. So it was really nice to have that.
So this person, you're saying contract, they would not be a school district employee?
No, they would not, because if you look at the skill set that we have, and I do know, you know, we have, you know, some retired SROs too. And then, you know, we did have Brian Balfour that was on the board at one time, and, you know, he really shared the work that, you know, Farmington Fire Department was doing in the relation to school safety. So there, I think we do have some opportunity to contract out with someone that has a high level skill set that could work specifically with the district. So in the context of this, then this district administrator high level position would be responsible for the director of human resource, and then also the business department. And within the context of this structure, then we would be having a accountant, which is one thing that we have talked about for quite some time, is building the capacity in the district for school finance. Because as I know, some people that have been on the board, the school finance is its own beast in the financial world. And it really takes a mentorship in order to learn it. And this is one of the highest turnover positions that districts do face. We were actually very lucky to get Kyle, who has experience with Central Consolidated, but also, Melissa is mentoring him on what it looks like for our district. And so that's what the operational side would look like. And then on the right side, this is, really the heartbeat of the district and what happens within the context of the walls and in the classrooms. So the curriculum and instruction person would be responsible for the federal programs, which is all the grants, the programming side. The fiscal part will now be moved over to the finance side because, whoever has the financial side of it has ultimate responsibility for everything, whether it's general fund or grants. And that's kind of been a little bit of a disconnect in the past. And then, so basically this is tier 1 instruction under the curriculum and instruction, everything, responsible for all the instruction. And then this director of sports services, if you can remember back at last spring, we asked for a position to be, to hire for, and it was called the MTSS coordinator. And that really was about tier 2 and tier 3 work. And it's not represented in here, but part of that was really working on the systems with the school administration and staff. And one of the big ones was the discipline. As you know, we converted over some specialized classrooms to really start working with our students that really struggle with severe needs, behavioral needs. But this is becoming an increased challenge. And then I was also looking at the potential legislation that's they're potentially going to pass. And if that's the case, then you have to have even additional proactive measures in place before you're going to be able to either suspend or expel a student. So, and then our district Native American coordinator and liaison. And so I know there's a lot more context into this, but as an organizational structure, it's just really how does it lay out? It really does not require any new positions. And asking for the board, there might be a minor adjustment, but this is where I wanted to elicit your feedback. See what you think. We can readjust it however the board sees fit. And then as discussed with these upper level management positions, we would, once we have an, agree upon positions, with the board, then we'll create the job descriptions and get them posted. And then we would have the candidates ready for the incoming superintendent to interview with the committee and finalize and hire. So thoughts?
I'm kind of wondering, my transportation director and nutrition service director is under accountant.
Yeah, and we can definitely move these around. I was quite frankly more focused on the food ones, which is the kind of the mid-management and upper management. But we can definitely move those over into underneath the district level. That's not a problem at all.
I don't know where to put it.
Yeah.
Well, Lori, I have absolutely no qualifications to discuss this, so I'm quite happy with what you come up with.
Thank you, Jack.
Our HR, if she leaves, we hire anyone?
Yeah, under the context we would hire for this.
So how many of these positions are going to be open, right? Or are open right now?
Going to be, yeah.
That are going to be.
Carol's assistant, she's leaving.
Right.
Jeanette's curriculum.
Right, so that one would be open, the Director of Support Services, because this was a position that we did not fill until we converted the position over. We would be hiring for that.
Which
position,
one?
The Director of
Oh.
Support Services. So basically, these two top ones would be open. Now, in all transparency, I was running this by Kyle, and Kyle would definitely be interested in applying or for this position, and he actually has HR experience too.
I am worried that he would burn out.
Well,
There's a lot on that, there's a lot on his plate.
Well, I'm not talking about Kyle specifically here. I'm talking about the positions, but really this position is people reporting to them. So with the business office would be ran by the financial accountant.
Okay.
But we would obviously need to, go through due process on the positions, but I just want to, definitely say that. But the point here is just to really marry the two together under a district administrator because they are so intertwined between the two. And if the board doesn't like it, we can rework it.
So when do you need to have a decision?
Well, really, that's up to the board. I mean, when do you want the cabinet placed? I mean, if you don't like this and you'd rather wait for the incoming superintendent, then, I'm fine with that. I mean,
But if you wanted to send out job descriptions, then he would hire.
right. That is what I offered to
Would
the
be-
board, but
yeah.
like I said, I am not putting any pressure on this at all. I'm doing this to assist my fellow colleagues.
Right. I'm
and
just,
moving the
but no, I'm
district
just trying
forward.
to.
So, no, I just want to clear, I am not pushing anything.
I'm
on
trying to
this.
get a time frame in my head. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
not-
then
I'm
you
not
tell
putting
me
anything
the
out.
time frame.
I'm trying to think of it, but I will tell you that I think that you're going to have to hire an administrative assistant regardless.
And I think this should actually be this one here.
Uh-huh.
If the board is seeing somebody in May, then I really do think this should be the incoming superintendent and a board member to hire for that position because both of you work so
What's going to happen in
closely
June?
together. Huh?
What's going to happen for the month of June?
Phyllis is actually retiring the end of May.
Yes.
And is Phyllis is she willing to train?
We will have
a
we'll have a new superintendent by then, but they won't be in place. But we can probably get them to interview.
And if the board would rather board representation, interview and seek that person, then that would be good. And the other issue that we do have as far as Phyllis training is, and Stacy, I think you remember this, is you have to have 30 days of no
Right.
contact with the district or by your retirement's null.
Yep.
So we definitely need to work around that. So ideally, the first part of May, if that's what the board would like, is to get this hired and then to train.
Board, your decision. Tell me what to do.
That, I mean, just from my knowledge, this position of Phyllis's is gonna need to be filled ASAP, because Phyllis's wealth of knowledge of 29 years is irreplaceable, priceless, and like you say, she can't work the month of June, or it affects her retirement. And that person needs to at least feel somewhat comfortable in what they're
So-
doing.
I agree. You think a couple of board members should? And Phyllis. I don't have Phyllis interview.
Whatever the board wants. we can definitely
I mean,
do
I
that.
don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas, guys. I don't know.
I think a couple of board members should maybe interview. My personal opinion is the person that you're replacing should not be in the
I
interview
tend to agree with
process.
that, except that she needs to know if there's going to be some.
I think that kind of makes everything a little
Okay.
uncomfortable. And-
Chris and Jack, do you agree? A couple of board members interviewed for Phyllis's job?
Yeah, I'm
For
fine with
Phyllis's
that.
job?
For Phyllis's place, her replacement?
I mean, I'm willing to put my 2 cents in, I guess.
Okay, so, what do, we can decide at our April meeting who's going to interview. And you can still go ahead and post it, correct? So, well, at the April meeting, we'll put our names in the hat that are willing to do it and then draw them out. I don't want to appoint, I'm not going to do the finger pointing. So, we'll do that and give Lori the opportunity to go ahead and advertise for that. How do you feel about the rest of the flow chart?
I'm fine with it. I agree with Jack's statement earlier about, that it's well put together, and I'm not really qualified to speak to it
And
really. So
I will agree with Chrissy.
So give Lori the freedom to go ahead and advertise, and then I would assume you give we would hire somebody in May when we have a new superintendent, and let them pick out who they can work with. Is that?
Yeah, exactly, because these two are critical.
Yeah, it's somebody that we have to work with, can work with, yeah. So does that give you the information you need?
Is there any other comments though? Because I want to make sure that I'm representing the board on this.
Yeah.
So I'm.
The board needs to step up.
Well, my comment is I like how it's laid out, number one. We definitely need to get the administrative assistant on its way so we can get that person in place.
Yeah.
But as to the comment of why would transportation and nutrition be under the finance? Their budgets are so uniquely in itself that it makes sense to be
It
where
does.
they are.
But
So,
I just
see when we
looking
say
at that.
operational, does that person need to be in charge of the bus routes? No, that's Lena.
Yeah.
Or the transportation director. But when it comes down to doing her report and doing the finances, that then becomes.
It's do we have the money for?
So it does make sense from that side of point of view, as well as the nutrition services as well.
Yeah.
For their budget as well.
Because they would have to work closely to determine how much to charge for lunches.
Yeah.
And how much to.
Let the directors be the directors, but when it comes to finance, it makes sense where they need to be. That's my 2 cents. And I'm not qualified either.
I'm definitely not. Cody?
I like it. I mean, I don't see any problems with it, but
Okay. Stacy?
I think it's good.
And Jack and Chris, you're okay with it? You
You
said,
bet.
yes.
okay. Lori?
All right, thank you, board.
Next are our school calendar.
Okay, so in the context of the school calendar, Amber's going to just show a very, what I created was a very brief PowerPoint to help guide our discussion. And like I said, and Jack and Chris, you do have these electronically also. And
yeah.
So with this, I wanted to give you the background for the calendar development process and where we are today. So with that, we have had staff representation from each of the schools with the leadership teams. I've actually, Eric has always helped assist, and Jim unofficially in serving as the administrators on the calendars. So I was a little bit more thoughtful this year, just knowing that somebody else will be developing the calendars next year. And so it was Kyle and Eric and Jim, and so they're going to be helping walk through this. In fact, they actually handled probably the most controversial meeting for me, because I had my monthly CEA meeting at the same time and it was a conflict. So they're also going to be weighing in on the considerations for this. And the goal tonight is just to really talk about the two calendars, the rationale why the calendars, why would they are these two. And then just really elicit questions from the board, and also what other information would you like to have that you don't have at this time in moving forward. So Tamara, do you mind showing the next one? Okay, so we talked about that. How about the next one? Okay, so what you have is the traditional calendar, and Eric's actually going to be going over these calendars. We have the traditional calendar, which basically is just a rollover from the last 2 years. We took that calendar, put it on this year, and rolled it over. And then we have the 4-day calendar, which I know we'll probably be spending the majority of the time on. And one of the tasks that we had as a calendar committee was what framework with the 4-day calendar would work for our district. And so with that, this is basically, quite frankly, Mancus's calendar with some minor revisions. It's a little bit longer, which Eric will go into. And then the Fridays are the green, and those are staff days. Because one of the things that I really wanted was the collaboration time with the teachers working together. And then, but you won't have on those Wednesdays anymore. And basically it's a straight run with the blue. So with that, I will let Eric walk through the calendars.
So we'll start with the 5-day calendar. And as Lori alluded to, this is basically identical to what we've had. There's one minor exception on this, and that is if you look at April 25th, that is just a day off. The school's closed on that day. That is simply because we made a mistake 2 years ago in putting the calendar together and ended the school year a day early on a Tuesday, which really messes up the high school. Because of last year and COVID and where we were at, we just adopted the previous year's calendar, so we weren't able to fix that. So the only thing we did was put that day in there as a day off. It kind of breaks up that long stretch between April and May. That then pushes the last day of school to a Wednesday, which is the 18th. The last work day on the 19th of May. Other than that, it is really identical to what we have this year, straight across the board. So nothing really changes there. I guess I can ask if there's any questions that you have on that. It's pretty straightforward.
I still hear complaints from parents on why they have half days on Wednesday instead of half days on Friday. Just throwing that out because that's the #1 complaint that I hear on the calendar when the calendar comes up. So. Okay.
All right, on the 4-day. So when we looked at the 4-day, we started with looking at some of the surrounding school districts and kind of use those as guidelines. And basically we have two kind of options. You do one of two things. We are limited by the number of hours that we must have to meet. And this calendar meets that both in elementary and secondary, barely, but we do meet our minimum requirements. And basically we could do one of two things. We can keep the calendar year the same as we've had it, which means we have to extend the length of the day because we're taking a day off every week. Or we extend the length of the year so we can keep the day a little bit shorter to still meet our hours. It was the recommendation of the calendar committee to extend the year. And so that's what you'll see reflected on here. So the beginning is 1 week earlier than the other calendars. The staff will report back on August the 2nd. And then students will start on August the 9th. And basically from that point on, it, as you can see, with the exception of really just 2 holidays, Labor Day, Memorial Day, it's just a straight shoot. It's 4 days a week, all year long. We have the 1 day in January that we come back to. The other change, I guess, so we added, the calendar committee added a week to the beginning of the year. They also put 2 days added over Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving break is not a week long, but 3 days long. And then I added a week to the end of the year. And so that pushed it past Memorial Day. And as you can see there, with last day of school will be June 2nd for staff on June 3rd. So that kind of meets everything there. This would also potentially, and probably we need to flip the high school and elementary schedules so that the elementary would be, the secondary would be starting earlier in the day, which is what we had when we were on the 4-day week, however many years ago that was. And then the elementary would be starting after that. The real catch on this, and the real problem is that, you know, there's over 100 different schools in Colorado that have a 4-day week. We are the only one that we know of that has 2 bus routes. So the real crux of the matter is doing this with a 2 bus route system. So because of that, we've worked with transportation to lengthen the turnaround time down to 1 hour. But it means with this proposal that secondary would probably be starting at 7:30 in the morning, and then elementary would be starting at least an hour after that. And then the end of the day, we're looking at secondary ending at 3:15 and elementary ending at 4:15 approximately. And again, those details still need to be worked out depending on which calendar we go for. But that's just kind of the rough breakdown.
So how many buses would it take to do a single route?
Okay, Kyle.
You can tell me how to go all
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's a very good question.
So as a summary right now, we have 2 bus routes, one for secondary, one for elementary. And then just keep in mind that we actually consolidated routes last year. So that was another change we did. And then the ridership last year was kind of a skewed number. So we had a meeting with Lena, and to give you an answer, it's hard to give you a real answer, because if we go off ridership numbers in 1920,
It's not accurate.
9 buses because of how many we had. If you go off ridership last year, 3 or 4 buses. So that's a big variance to be able to tell you we need this many buses to make this work. 2 things that I'm going to work on immediately, and hopefully you guys can make your decision appropriately. But one thing we did about, I think it's 7-8 years ago, is we brought in an outside agency to kind of evaluate our routes. So it's non-biased, it's not one way or the other, this is what it is. And then also discussing, going back to Lena and seeing what the process is for parents to ask to have their kids on a bus. Because what we're finding is, especially at secondary, buses are showing up empty. But then if you go to the transportation department, they have documentation that says this parent requested that this seat be available for this kid, and they're just not putting the kid on the bus. And by law, we have to hold that seat that's being requested. So those are 2 things that I'm working on to try and get some clarity. But as far as how many buses we need, I need a good enrollment count to give you that number. So unfortunately, it's between 3 and 9 at this point.
And
3 and 9 additionally to what we have.
And then the COVID money that we're getting, can we use that to buy buses?
Buses are one of the allowable expenditures.
They are, okay.
So
I
I'm not proposing anything. I'm asking the questions.
No,
because I think that it's something that every board member will probably wants to ask.
And I see your and I see Lena's frustration, and I see our frustration too, is, you know, we see these buses, we have parents who come, and they are, I mean, I'm as guilty as the next person. There might be 4 kids on this big old bus, and they're headed out on their route. And, you know, it's like, wow,
why
you
can't
know?
you combine the 2?
Exactly, you know, but we don't have the whole story. And, you know, we have to.
Well, like Carol said, we have to hold seats if they.
Yeah.
Because there might be, their car will break down, so that high school kid has to ride. That then, and so.
And that is a frustrating thing.
I think that if we make a decision, it needs to have community input. So I think that we need to ask, maybe send home some letters, some surveys and have.
What we have is,
okay.
We're gonna do a survey, and the calendar committee has helped too, and this is where I want to elicit board feedback on additional questions, and I know that's small, but basically the timeline ideally is that we will have a staff newsletter go out tomorrow, latest Thursday, since we may not have time to turn this around quite quickly enough for tomorrow. But have a hot link in there. And then in the context of the survey, I was really looking back at my notes from last year. And so in the development of the survey, it'll have what school do you belong to, what department you belong to, and then the committee, because that was a board request, was knowing from each entity or departments how they felt. And then the committee has identified what do you like best about this calendar, what do you like the least for the two calendars, and which calendar you like the most. So those are the questions that the committee has landed on. But what other questions? So I guess I have two questions is the board okay with these two calendars and moving forward to elicit the response that the calendar committee did develop? And then what additional questions does the board have that they would like to be asked? Because I do know that this, quite frankly, is going to be a very difficult decision for the board.
It's gonna be a horrible one.
So I want to make sure that providing everything so you can make the best decision in moving forward.
How would it work if they asked on that survey question, will your child be riding the bus? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that will help you.
I would say even that data, we're hoping that everybody surveys, and then even when we get that number, how useful is it?
Chris, Jack, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, one of the things I think was ignored the last time we went through this discussion was the effect that that particularly the 4-day work week has on parents that are, basically working minimal wage jobs. I mean, we've got 60 to 70% of our kids on free and reduced lunch. And, these aren't parents that can get off whenever they need to. Kids are, in a lot of cases, going to be home alone. They're not like, say, my grandchildren who have somebody there or can do some creative things. And I think it's going to be very difficult to get feedback from these people because you don't have, a lot of them don't have internet access, or not certainly good internet access. So I really worry about I think there's a bunch of educational issues and there's issues with the times and all of that. But I think we need to consider that you could have a lot of kids home alone.
Tammy, last year when this was discussed, didn't some of the churches and stuff say that they would step up on the Fridays to help the kids?
Yes.
Do you think they still would?
Actually, I had that conversation with some of my friends from the church I happen to attend. And that was one of the questions, Jack, exactly what was brought up is what do we do with these kids on the 5th day? And it's not just in our district, it's statewide. Everybody talks about what that 5th day is and the uniqueness of some grants of doing some summer school and enrichment programs that could happen. The churches fall into that nonprofit category. They're going to fund those 5th days to those, I don't want to say those, but to those nonprofits, then give the money to the school districts to keep the 5 days, right? So my particular church has a high level of retired gifted educators, as well as engineers, a whole facet of individuals that are actually looking, what can we do to help our community? So at least I can only speak about my church. Yeah, we would be willing to step up that 5th day. I would probably be that liaison. Yeah, actually.
And I think that this is a great opportunity going to the 4-day week to help have our community and help empower our education. Mm-hmm. The rec center, the Pinion Project, all the churches, all those other entities out there that could step up and do those things. And I realize that there's there's some legalities on how many kids those people can take because they gotta come into those safety issues. And that's our most important thing is that we want those kids safe wherever they go. But I think that this is someplace where the schools could work with the public to help provide places for these kids.
And we did
these
that
parents.
last time when we were on a 4-day week.
Yeah, you know, and I really like the 4-day week for the teachers and the staff, for everyone. I think it's a big proponent of getting quality educators to your district. Is the whole
You
thing.
use the 5th day for your internships that you guys are developing?
Yeah, that is one of the things, I mean, internships, depending upon the setup, are usually every day of the week. But for job shadows, for some of those specializations and different trips, yeah, there's definitely advantages and disadvantages of both schedules. As far as from an athletic standpoint, you know, having that way to travel and do some of those things.
Yeah.
For
And what about sports?
sports, yeah, with that. But there's also disadvantages. I mean, I can say that when I was in the classroom and we went from a 4-day back to the 5-day, I had to add about 3 weeks of content to where we're at, meaning that we go back to a 4-day, we will probably lose about 3 weeks of content.
Yeah.
And because even though the minutes and hours may add up over the year, it's not the same when you don't have the days. So it is definitely, there's a lot of pros and cons, and we just wanted to present a big kind of 1,000-foot view on this one, so that, you know, then next month, we're gonna have more details of pros and cons. on each of these.
And, you know, whether the board supports this, because quite frankly, we have policy change. I forget everything that I had put up there. There are a significant, and I have to say, you know, we have over 100 rural districts in Colorado that has a 4-day week, but there is also significant less hours in this one, kind of what Eric was alluding to, we're meeting the mandated law than the 5-day week one.
We could just do year-round school.
Actually, if you want to know the truth, I think having this calendar and having a modified year-round, which would give a month off during the summer, would be perfect.
Oh, I like that a lot. I think year-round school would be phenomenal, because they get more time off at Thanksgiving, more time off at Christmas, more time, and then but they don't really lose their learning.
Yeah, the
because
learning, the
they're-
summer
Yeah, right.
retention
So-
issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true, but I mean, especially in our social economic area,
Yeah.
our families, depend on those kids on those farms to help make the money for the year, so. I guess why every other Friday? Because the 4-day week, we're trying to get staff in, and so
The reason for that is that it allows time for teacher collaboration, which doesn't exist in this calendar.
Like the Wednesdays.
Yeah, the Wednesdays, and then it allows for site-based professional development for the schools.
There's 9 PDs in a 4-day.
There's not, it's just a straight run. I remember that from last time, it's a straight run to even get the hours. And then within the context of that Friday, because we did mock up a schedule for the Fridays, the administrators mocked it up, and then we took it to the calendar committee because they were concerned what that would look like. And then there is some teacher planning time.
Yeah.
In the afternoon.
the one thing that, and our poor Paris, and, you know, we're not able to pay those people especially what some of them really have to do, is I would suggest that they not have to come in on at least one of those Fridays.
But don't they get paid by the hour?
It works out hourly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an overall salary, but it works into the hours.
Yeah.
So,
I mean.
So, and what about bus drivers?
Yeah, and that's the thing, your bus drivers, your
Because we have to
custodians.
rework our policies because a lot of our bus drivers are doing this for the benefits.
Yeah.
right. And one of the things that we had talked about too, which we did this year with consolidated stops, is if the bus drivers wanted to keep their hours, then they could come in and help at the school in some capacity.
Custodial work, but
Yeah, because this really is not a fiscal reason that we're going to this, it's more of a programming.
Right.
So I think there is some opportunities to help support the schools with some of our support staff that would normally have kid hours.
Well, I suggest that you send out your survey and you'll bring more information back next meeting. And then do we want it on as a discussion or an action?
We'll need to do board action because I worked with Eric about the delay in adopting it, because obviously this is an in-depth
Yeah, because we've
process.
got contracts. there.
Yeah.
So put it on as an action item. Jack, Chris, do you have any questions you want to add to the survey?
Yeah, I would just like to add, the wrinkle of Dolores just adopting their 4-day week and now Mancos as well. So, and you're trying to attract and retain educators. But then also you have the problem of parents getting their kids to school if it's starting later. And then also the issues Jack brought up about that 5th day. And yeah, there's just a lot to consider with that 4-day school week. So I think it's important that we get the, things that attract teachers to the district, but then you have support staff that pays hourly. So we'll have to restructure their pay scale because, I would think to make up for that 5th day to keep them around. So there's a lot with it.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of policy change already from last time, and then we had to reconvert it back. It's possible.
It's doable.
Yeah,
It's doable, but
I mean,
I want to make sure we do the right decision. Right.
Yeah.
So questions?
I think we want.
Oh, go ahead,
I
Jack.
think- Yeah, I think we want to know, about the availability of childcare for kids. Again, I think it's a real problem if kids are going to be home alone, and I think that's clearly happened. There's a problem with the delay in between classes, and when you have kids that are struggling, the more days in between class time is a problem, and I mean that's been pretty well documented. There's certainly I've supported and spent an awful lot of time trying to get a tax increase so we can raise the pay of teachers, and I still think that's important to do. If you want to throw in a question, maybe it's would you be willing to have taxes raised to provide some support for teachers? And that, if the 4-day week is going to get us down to basically the minimum amount of class time, then I think that's a mistake too, because some of these kids need more time in class. I mean, as I think somebody mentioned, I mean, obviously the better thing to do would be to go to a 12 or an 11-month school system, and certainly there are places that are trying this, but yeah, that's I guess my main comments.
Thank you. Did you get that down, Lori? Some of the questions? Phyllis?
No.
Okay. Phyllis, did you pick up on what Jack was saying?
As far as the childcare, I'm not so sure we can answer that,
Yeah.
to be honest. I mean, that would just need to be some work with our community. partners.
Yeah,
I don't think we could have that by the next board meeting.
no, probably. Yeah, probably, you probably wouldn't get a straight answer in any case, but it's, there's really minimal affordable childcare. And, it's fine to talk about churches doing that. And, certainly our church does a lot of stuff, but when you start to take, when you get people taking care of young children, you got to go through a lot of checks. And I mean, I wouldn't want anybody taking care of my grandchildren unless I was absolutely sure that they were qualified to do that and went through the appropriate background.
Do you think that the parents would write that down on the survey?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's just a suggestion to see if there's some way that we can find out if they would have childcare available for this fifth day.
So how about something like, would childcare be an issue?
Yeah.
4-day week or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
All right, Phyllis, did you get most of that?
I did not write a word down, but I have the tape to go back to.
Okay, great. Is there anything else to discuss on the calendar?
I just wanted to mention another thing just to consider is when moving to the 4-day, you take away all your holidays for your 12-month employees.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so that was one of the consideration or concerns brought up as well. And then also going with the 4-day, we want to keep in mind that the idea is 4 days. So creating extra programs and things like that on Friday kind of defeats the purpose from the teacher perspective because they're looking to have that day off. So just
So you're saying there, every other week is.
I think that's fine because they wanted the planning time, but I think if we were to consider creating programs on those 5th days internally to make up for childcare, so we'd be shooting ourselves.
I don't think that.
I don't think we would stop it.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And when we did that before, I think what we had, the kids that we had were the super achievers that came in. We didn't have the kids that were struggling.
They had better things to do than learn. Okay. Any more comments before we move on to the next item?
Well, I was just gonna say, last time there was a concern of kids being fed on that 5th day. Would our nutrition services be offering sack lunches?
We could do that.
Sign up like we've done over the summer
So-
to.
Yeah, we could definitely
Do
do that.
a question, put that on as a question. Will you need a sack lunch?
I almost think it's required, but I'll look into it. I think if we're getting money for free and reduced, I think we have to, but I'll definitely.
5 days a week.
I'm sure Sandy could do this and it would also obviously keep our cooks.
Just keeps them busy, yeah. Gives them.
Well, and I'd just like to add that, the 4-day calendar is based on 2 bus routes.
Right.
And that's what because we do need a decision next month. So, waiting on that change of the bus route for
Oh,
next
we
year.
can't do that.
Can't do that.
No,
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that-
we're a year away from that.
No.
Yeah, because you really need to know what the count is going to be once we
Yeah,
get
we
kids
really know
online
how
and
many
in
buses we
person.
need and,
Get an external
Okay.
auditor to come in and do that for us.
so, yeah, I agree.
And something else to consider with this 4-day calendar as well. Coming off a year and a half of COVID, and a lot of these kids missing out on instruction that have already fallen behind. A lot of, a third of the district being online fully might not be the best time to be looking at a 4-day calendar. A lot of these kids are going to need as much instruction as they can get to get caught back up to the losses that they've experienced.
Yes, you're right. Hopefully our summer program will just be a miracle cure.
Yeah.
But the downfall to that is if we don't go to a 4-day, how many quality teachers and staff are we gonna lose to Dolores and Mancus?
Yep.
Who are, and that's, I think it's really important for the staff to have for that 4-day week.
Well, I eagerly await our survey,
Yeah.
so we know.
Any other questions before we move on for the survey? And then we'll get it out. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to F, illegal drugs and sales near the high school. Jack and I have been talking off and on about this, and he suggested I do a resolution. I spoke with Lori and she said that she could visit the police department.
Yeah,
And it might be more effective than telling them what we expected to do.
Yeah, I would be more than willing to meet with the chief of police and see what we could do. And if a board member would like to attend that meeting, that would be fine too.
How do you feel about that? Eric?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be helpful.
Because you fight that all the time, don't you? The Walmart fence and then Seven's one just walking across the street on Spider.
Yeah, I mean, we have kids that are looking to leave campus for different reasons. I mean, for smoking, and whatnot, and so we know we can't do that on campus. On campus, that's one of the things we kind of just look around.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, with the it's white heroin, right? That's
Yeah, that one that was in the
highly,
paper,
highly
that was-
concerning.
That is scary.
For Maine and Sligo. So, yeah, I'd be glad to have a meeting with the police department.
Okay, does that suit the board? To have Lori meet with the police department and have them start doing extra patrols?
Yeah, well, now, remember, some of this is county because all of this stuff where all of the trash is over on the other side of 7th, I think is county.
Oh, okay.
And
It is.
and so, and I know Sheriff Nolan has expressed concern about some of the drugs that have been sold in that area, including some really serious stuff.
I think he'd be willing to.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Put some extra patrols on there.
So it is in the city.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
That's Sheriff Nolan also?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll actually reach out to both because Stacy is right. I remember this and working, getting that road all the way through to
It's a
transportation.
both.
Yeah,
County
it's
and
county
city
and
right
city,
there.
because the
Yeah.
city limits are right there, but then
There's our county.
then there's the town sits like this and the city line sits like this in town. That's that's kind of how it runs in the whole city.
The next item on
Jack,
our,
I know any,
do what?
I was just gonna say, I know any issues we have right by the bus barn are all handled by the county.
Yes, they are.
Right.
So the next item on our agenda are board meetings, and I asked to have that put on. I know, I've read where the city has opened up their meetings to the public. And I think the county commissioners are open now. The hospital is opening up their board meetings. They're asking them to be RSVP so that they can get the right amount. How do you feel about us doing opening it up and letting the public come in? And I would say we decide that we can let 5 people in or something, and then they have to call us and tell us they want to come in. We don't just open the door for whoever wants to come.
I mean, I think it's fine as long as there's the appropriate spacing and
masks.
and mask and worn properly. I'm a little concerned about us kind of getting ahead of the game. I mean, and I think we've made really great progress, which is quite wonderful. And obviously more people being vaccinated will help. There are, also multiple variants of the current strain. One of them is B117, which I think came out of the UK, and there's, I don't know, somewhere between 20 and 30% of the new cases fall into that category. Now, those have apparently leveled off as well. So, you know, I still think, you know, certainly by summer, if all continues to go well, we'll be able to do a lot more things. But we still need to be cautious because nobody wants to go back into this mess that we've been in for the last year plus.
I don't want to do anything that's going to endanger our graduation ceremonies this year. Our kids
Right.
need that.
Right.
Well, and I can speak on that even in the blue variants, I mean, just to give you an idea to think about it, our maximum number allowed is 500. We have a class of 150 people, 150 graduates with 2 parents. We're at 450, and that doesn't include anybody here in that. So we're not talking, we're gonna hold a ceremony with 2 parents only.
Right.
At this point, and even in the green level, I don't think that changes from 500.
Which is a great improvement from last year.
Huge improvement to what we're doing, but I want to make sure that people understand that
Yeah.
it's not open up, everybody, bring the whole family to come like we have in the years past. It is, will still be very restricted in our total numbers. So
Yes.
that's not including the band, that's not including, you know, that we
Right.
can't have some of those things. So
I know.
we are looking at all those different options for that. And we definitely want to have a graduation.
Yeah.
Well, and as soon as we get the guidance, then we'll make the decision so people can plan accordingly.
Right.
If it's only 2 people, then they have plenty of time to be able to message it and maybe have something at their house for the rest of the relatives or something like that.
So is it okay with the board if we move the board minutes to an action item for next meeting?
The board meeting?
Board meeting,
Yeah,
and then just vote
that's
on
fine with me. I still think we should start having board meetings at the high school. And,
it.
you know,
That would work.
pre-COVID where you could have if the elementary schools, you know how we were going to each school every month, and you could have a student body present come from each school to the high school, you know, get to go to the big school and do something, you know, for the board or present something to the board.
Yeah.
You could have community members at the beginning of it, kind of almost by invite only, not as far as like they would contact us for they have business with the board, you know, and maybe have it so you have them attend on that purpose only, and once their business is concluded with the board, then they would kind of leave, you know, as a beginning maybe, you know, but
Yeah. So
there's some ideas.
will you put that on the agenda for our next board meeting for April?
Or do you want to just have it at the high school in April? We can do
And we
that.
can, or do you want to have it at the high school in April and move, just open it up to people who want to?
So when is the next school board meeting?
13th of May.
Because we'll have an executive session.
That's right, we'll have an executive session.
The board meeting in April is the 20th.
The 20th?
The third Tuesday of April is the 20th, not the 13th.
The 20th, okay.
But we're having an executive session on the 13th.
We are?
Yes.
Okay. Our interview stuff, okay. Well, that is just us anyway.
Right.
Since it's an executive session, are you okay with having it here?
Yes.
Have it set up.
Yeah, it's just us. So board, do you want to have it at the high school in the 20th, April 20th?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm okay with
Yes.
that.
Is it okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, we can make that happen.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
As
So
long as Eric brings donuts.
he always does. He told me that.
Always ready.
Can I talk it now?
We can do that.
I've been feeding myself at meetings for the last year.
I'm sorry.
I had to bring it up.
Chris, would you repeat that?
I said I've been having to feed myself at meetings for the last year.
Well, we will definitely have something like we Ask for,
So do we invite the community to come in?
I would start off, I think like Jack said, still have some caution with it and maybe,
Oh, yeah.
have people, if they have something if they have business, then they can come. But I think just in general participation, maybe just limit that to Zoom to start with.
Okay. So if you have business, if you want to address the board, then
Contact Phil.
Yeah.
so contact Phil
in advance.
in advance, not the day of, because we have to, that wouldn't be fair to Eric to be out there trying to section us off. So.
Yeah.
I would love to see a high school student presentation that day. Maybe even if Marla just comes in and sings the national anthem and says the pledge, or just something special for that.
Or a quick little one-liner.
Yeah, if
Something.
Nicholas has some improv or something.
Yeah.
If we could make that happen, I think that would be really special for those kids.
Okay, we didn't vote on it, but we're having our board meeting April 20th at the high school auditorium. Eric is doing chocolate milk.
We'll make it up. Coffee.
And we're going to do the executive session on the 13th at the admin building.
Yes, it will be here at the admin building.
Okay.
And it will be a long one because.
So assuming you have
What time?
capabilities set up, right?
All right, Kat, Chris, do you want to Zoom or do you want to meet in person?
On the 13th,
Yes.
I'll be there on the 13th. I would have been there tonight, but I was just traveling.
I'll be there on the 13th.
Okay, so we
Do
don't
you
need
have
to,
the candidates Zoom in or?
no, Norma might possibly Zoom in and
Okay,
Paul will be here.
okay.
So
And what time is that one? Is that 6?
the 13th, I don't know what time it is.
I'm 7, the 13th. I didn't write it down.
I don't think I did either.
I need to also give the board notice that as I look at the calendar, and Paul can back me up on this, the interviews are set for 2 days right now. I think it's the 27th or 28th of April.
Right.
It's Tuesday and Wednesday. And so if anyone has any other like personal commitments or job commitments or whatever, you need to be considering to have those days off so that you can be at those interviews.
Right.
The 26th and 27th,
27th and 28th.
27th and 28th.
28th, and so
27th.
And I don't have, and we may only need it one meeting. I mean, it depends on what we decide the 13th.
and I just bring that up so that you can kind of look at your calendars and make sure that those interview days are left free, because it's going to take all of either 1 day or 2 days, but you want to make sure that
Right.
you're available to attend.
So what time on the 13th?
I don't have time.
I don't have a time either.
I will find out and let you know.
Yeah, earlier.
How's that? I am assuming 6 or 7, whichever. What's the board's pleasure? You want to meet at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock?
6.
6.
6?
6.
Okay.
6 would be fine.
I will contact him and tell them we want to meet at 6 o'clock on the 13th. Okay, moving right along, our last one, participants and activities.
Well, I had several middle school parents contact me after Mr. Robinson sent out his press release. And there seems to be a disparity on how many people can be between the high school and the middle school. The middle school is saying one number, and Mr. Robinson said per district policy or district
Our COVID.
our COVID plan that we can have this amount. And so middle school parents are only allowed 2, and high school people are allowed 4, and then the rest of them are general tickets. And this is just football. But these parents were just football parents, but the middle school also is only allowing 2 for volleyball, where at the high school, they're allowing more also. So the middle school parents are wondering why they can only have 2 when the high school can have more.
Okay.
Is it the size of the building? Oh, it's outside, you said?
Yeah.
Well, no, they'll be outside. I'll check into it. You know, the inside one, again, like what Tammy said, have to do with
Yeah, and it could.
area for the football. I'll check into it.
Lori, did you put this in everybody's board packet?
Yeah.
Did you put this in everybody's board packet?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I just want
I'll
to
check into it.
Okay.
Get back with you, Stacy.
Okay, is there anything else? Lori's going to check into it and see why there's a discrepancy.
Might be.
So anything for our next meeting? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.